Good morning, everyone, and welcome back. I hope you enjoyed yesterday's tours, that you also enjoyed the gala dinner, and more particularly, I hope you're still enjoying your stay in Tallinn and the conference. I hope you're also looking forward for the second day of the conference. A kind and quick reminder that during the conference you have the possibility to ask questions from the panelists through the web-based application Worksup that can be accessed through the website using the login ID. The questions have to be posted under the topic that is currently being discussed on the stage. You can also vote for questions that are dear to your heart but have been posted by others from the audience. We will also actually use this Worksup application later on in the afternoon to vote for your favorite hackathon team. But how exactly to do that, I will come back to that in greater detail in the afternoon where the time for voting is here. There were some questions about photos, I understood. Just to note that they will be uploaded to the conference website somewhere during the first half of the next week. I promised yesterday, after having covered all the core topics of the e-Justice, I promised to talk about the future. So I have news for you. The future is now. We are in the future, and today's topics we are discussing interoperability, sustainability, and in a more broader sense, the future e-Justice. Since the pace for the conference was quite strongly set, I believe, a fast pace, I would say, even during yesterday's panels and keynote speeches, today we decided not to open the panels by speeches, but actually start discussing the future now directly with the panelists and, of course, with the audience. I also promised to you yesterday to start the day with a live broadcast once again from the black box of the hackathon, so we can be updated what they have been doing yesterday till 10 in the evening, what are the results, maybe not yet entirely finalized, basically what is the stage they currently are in. And for this, I would really like to give the virtual word, back to Elisa from the hackathon black box. Elisa, please, we are all big ears and eager to hear what you have to show and tell us.
Hi, welcome conference people. Here at the Hackathon Hall, we have been working much longer than you did. I understand that you were already partying at the time when our teams were still hacking and trying to figure out the solutions for the problems that they have mapped for themselves. Currently, the teams have probably slept a few hours on their ideas as well. So what else happened yesterday? As I'm sure you will remember, the team started mapping 8 different problem areas. And out of that, 4 of them were those that they started to work with. The teams currently working are Draft Hub, that is about law drafting workspace, Eurovisor, which is laws for travelers, Peter the Lawbot, which is about family law app for EU residents, and Legal, that is Google for lawyers in the future. So how they've done all of that in just very short time? First of all, they also need to know how to focus on the problems, talking about the problems and mapping that and going into detail. But they also need to understand what will be the best solution to actually fix the problem and who are the people, the target group that they're aiming for, as no solution can be working for everybody out there. And important part is also the impact. So why should people care? For example, why you at the conference hall should care about the problems and the solutions that the teams are building over here. So, and currently, let's talk with one last team that you haven't seen yet. This is Peter the Lawbot, and Haldi will hopefully tell us what is it all about. Hi, Haldi, how are you?
Hi, good.
So what is Peter the Lawbot?
So Peter Lawbot is a mobile app where people who have family crises can find lawyers and authorities who can help them. So especially in cases when they're living in a country where they don't know who to turn to or what to do as a first step.
So what kind of family crisis are you talking about? Is it something that when my husband is lost, or when I'm actually needing a divorce in a different country?
Yeah, it's the legal issues. So whether it's divorce, whether there's issues with your parents, inheritance, or of course children, custody, maintenance, child abduction, everything like that.
So all of these things that are actually about laws, the legal issues, and when I need a lawyer. But how are you at the hackathon? So is it your first hackathon?
Yes, it's my first hackathon. I'm actually here as a mentor. This is the first time I'm on this side of the table. I'm usually at the side where we help people. So it's good to give people the first step to get to this past.
Good. And what has been like surprising elements about hackathon for you?
I think it's just a brainstorming. So it's when people from very different sides of the world and from different sides where they're working at try to get together and find something that can help everyone.
Good. Thank you, Halli. So this was the fourth team. You at the conference hall will see all the teams pitching in the afternoon, and you will be able to choose the favorite of the audience then as well. Before that, the teams will continue in this hall to prepare the solutions, and also they practice for the final pitch, and they are eager to show you what they have done over here. So thank you, Kathleen. I will give the word back to you.
Thank you, Lisa. Once again, the website where the workshop application can be accessed. So let's talk about the future that is now. First, in the framework of interoperability and sustainability. I know it was reverse side on the agenda, but I believe that it's logical to start by the interoperability and then talk about how to sustain this interoperability in the longer run. For this, I asked to join me on stage Mr. Krum Karkov, who is the Executive Director of EULISA, or the long and lengthy name, European Agency for the Operational Management of Large-Scale IT Systems in the Area of Freedom, Security and Justice. EULISA. Director, please. Mr. Göstra Petri, who is the Deputy Head of the eJustice IT and Document Management, DG Justice and Consumers from the European Commission. Mr. Ernst Stechenhe, Coordinator for the e-Codex project, and also works for the Ministry of Security and Justice in the Netherlands. And last but not least, once again, a fellow Estonian, Mr. Tõnu Tammer, who is Chair of the DAPIX Working Party at the Council of the European Union, and also the Counselor on IT Systems at the Ministry of the Interior of Estonia. Thank you for being here. So let's hack attack the interoperability and sustainability framework. Well, as a short introduction, if we talked yesterday about, I would say, the near future, when talking about the core elements of the Digital Europe and hence also of that of e-justice, then I would say that actually today we are discussing and focusing on first on the medium-term outlook when talking about the interoperability and sustainability. And I would say we will concentrate on the longer-term outlook when we talk about the future of e-justice in the second panel. Let us first turn to the interoperability, as I already mentioned. Interoperability was also something that was mentioned during Commissioner King's speech yesterday, when he talked about interoperability between, for example, e-justice and police information systems at the European Union level. Well, it is loud and clear for everyone that interoperability is a must when we want to achieve once only principle. And this is why actually the topic came on the table several times yesterday as well. However, we did not really focus on the interoperability part per se. I would say that we have this time a very good example from Estonia on the basis of X-Road for interoperability. That, of course, has had its benefits in gaining the time and also budget cuts for both the public as well as for the citizen. Now, I may be asking a bit of an intriguing question, and do correct me if I'm wrong or debate against it, But wouldn't you say that, in fact, there's something already exists for the European Union level also in the interoperability framework, namely in the form of e-codex? Or if this is not the case in your opinion, what is the situation for the EU for their interoperability framework? So since I mentioned e-codex, I would kindly give the first word to Ernst, since he's a project of e-codex, and probably we get some insights and maybe some good debating points from the others as well. Please, Ernst.
Okay, thank you very much, Kathleen. Concerning the interoperability and what we have available in Europe at the moment, I would say, of course, that's part of my role, that eCodex is a solution for a lot of interoperability issues. And what I would like to stress in this context as well is that when we started off with eCodex, we had some basic principles that we really wanted to address. So the first one was subsidiarity, and then not subsidiarity only in the political term, but really by means of respecting national solutions and respecting national legal traditions, because we knew we had to overcome these legal differences as well. And then if we look at the European interoperability framework, you could see that legal interoperability is one element of it, political interoperability is an element of it, organizational interoperability is an element of it, and technical interoperability is a part of it. So if you look at that from that perspective, what we could address in eCodex and what we thought that we could address was technical interoperability and the organizational interoperability. So that's what we start off with, and by starting off in a very modest way, being, showing some kind of humility in the way of what we could achieve, it was by respecting all these different legal traditions in the member states, respecting all these legal IT solutions as well in the member states, and then try to connect all these different systems. So I would say, indeed, that if you are looking for interoperability for case-related data, that's what we're talking about, then eCodex is a solution which would really well fit the European Union. And not only the European Union, because of our close cooperation with the Hague Conference for International Private Law as well, we have been able to also use the eCodex mechanism to bring maintenance obligations from all over the world together as well, so in order to have these children of divorced parents being served not only in Europe but everywhere. So you could see that the interoperability solution that we created with eCodex is not only suitable for Europe, not only for countries, for the member states, but also for countries outside. So outside the European Union, but also from other continents. So in that way, again, I think eCodex is a solution, interoperability solution, that is really worth to be sustained. I would like to say some words about sustainability later on as well. Mm-hmm. And I'm really glad that this is really being embraced as well by the European Commission, and that we are drafting now an impact assessment on the topic, and as well that the EULISA organization is so willing and so friendly to be willing to host us in the near future.
So you actually already a bit stepped upon the sustainability that we'll discuss in the second part of the panel. A quick question on eCodex, and I will give the floor to others. Have I also understood correctly that one of the benefits, one might say, for eCodex is that it also allows to unhook from a single service provider?
Sorry, I didn't really...
Unhook from a single service provider.
That's true, but that's the idea of interoperability, that you can always change from service provider, of course, as well. But then again, that's also part of the subsidiarity question, that you can always leave it to the member states to decide what kind of service provider they would be looking for. So indeed, again, eCodex is, in that sense, subsidiarity proof that we allow the member states to choose the solution that fits their needs.
Okay, so other panelists, since EULISA was already mentioned, maybe some point of view from the EULISA side?
Yeah, of course, thank you. And good morning to everyone. Well, I will start from a different angle, because, as you know, interoperability is also a hot topic in Home Affairs domain already for a couple of years. And the key question that we've been asked to answer at policy and political level was not whether the interoperability can happen, because technically, yes, we can do it tomorrow. Let me put it that way. But the key question is, do we need a really interoperability? And before we answer that question, it will be more difficult to design the proper technical solution to address the need. So from my point of view, interoperability today is a must for a very simple reason. If you look at Home Affairs domain, and I believe same process goes on in justice as well, you will see that in the last years, there is a very rapid transformation of the domain as we know it from 10 years ago and as it is today. And that transformation is about convergence, very quick and rapid convergence from the different policy areas into each other. For example, in Home Affairs domain, you cannot anymore draw border lines between border management, internal security, and migration management. They all come together. And therefore, all the technical solutions, platforms, systems, databases that we put together in the past, which were built in silos, now should be aligned with the new demand and with the new priorities that we see at policy and political level. So in that sense, interoperability is a must. We need to do it. Now the question is how to do it in a smarter and better way. So I agree with Ernst that we have different dimensions of interoperability, and the technical interoperability is probably the easiest one to achieve. And we have many examples. We have eCodex example. We have similar initiatives in Home Affairs domain. But I think in a way we approach the problem from the bottom to top rather than the opposite, because the technical solutions, including technical solutions for interoperability, come to address a particular business need. And the business need is defined by the operational and policy objectives that those solutions need to achieve. So in that sense, today, even if we speak a lot about interoperability, we have too many silos yet from policy and operational point of view. And until we are able, again, taking the point from my side, to run the process in parallel, looking not only on the technical aspects, but also on operational policy, even political aspects of interoperability, and bring all those different dimensions of interoperability together, I think the results that we will achieve, and there will be results, of course, will be less than we can achieve if we do it differently and smarter.
I'm still coming back on my question. So what are your personal perceptions on the potential of eCodex in that context? Given all the possible bottlenecks, I understand there are many. Do you have any first thoughts on that, on the eCodex? Could it be, should it be, or maybe you have some position that definitely, due to that reason, definitely it should not at all?
Well, first of all, of course, I can only echo what Ernst said, that eIDAS is very supportive and open to the needs of justice community. We'll be glad to start expanding our contribution in this area, because, as you said at the beginning, we are called Justice and Home Affairs agency, but for the time being, we are delivering only Home Affairs. So we need to fulfill our name. In that sense, eCodex is a platform that, from my point of view, is very necessary for justice community and justice domain, because if we compare developments in terms of utilization of technology in the last 5-10 years in Home Affairs domain and in justice domain, Home Affairs, in a way, was faster adopting the technologies, while justice domain, for different reasons, took a slower pace of adoption. But now that comes with benefits, because the justice domain can learn from what has been achieved in Home Affairs domain and eventually will not repeat the same mistakes that we did in the past. So in that sense, e-justice is the right step towards establishing interoperability in justice domain, and it creates a potential for very rapid development of interoperability, and also a very rapid adoption of the capabilities of the new technologies for benefit of justice community in Europe.
Since Steno had a comment to make, and I will let him, and then I'm very eager also to hear the European Commission's point of view.
Thank you, Kathleen, and good morning also from my side. I don't want to contradict what you're saying, but I would like to look at the interoperability from another angle. For me, interoperability, first and foremost, is a mindset. And only then you can look at the different aspects of that. And when I talk about mindset, what I mean, as an example of the European Union, we have decided that we want to work together because together we are better than each and individual one of us, plus the other, plus the other, plus the other. So when we come together, we are better. The same is the interoperability. The reason why we talk about the interoperability, at least on an IT level, only now, we haven't really done that for a very long time, I think it's because of the digital skills. Our political masters have lacked. Also, the world has taught that there is a need to look more towards the digital, and that has really brought the interoperability also on the digital landscape. What both Krum and Ernst said is absolutely true, that when you look at the digital, you have two aspects, both the technical and the legal. But again, interoperability is on both sense just a mean of achieving something. The alternative are silos. That works also well with its limitations. We would have indeed more data, same data, in a number of different systems. Might be wrong here, might be wrong there. How do we know it's wrong if we do not compare it? We have no possibility of actually finding it out, making it correct, what is required by the basic principles of data protection. We have no means to deliver, and actually we have set the goals for a long time, and we've been lacking on how to deliver those. And we are finally getting there to start thinking, okay, how do we deliver on those? And we also have to try and then change our mindset.
So, your personal perception, do you think there is something existing today for the European Union level that we could take forward, or should we start from zero?
We should not start from zero. We have done already quite a bit. eCodex here is a very good example of what we have done in the justice domain. And again, that is something that our home colleagues generally are not too aware of the possibilities of what it could provide to them. Because each field sort of, again, works in a silo. We don't start off immediately, guys, I would like to create a particular system for a problem, but could that system also contribute to other areas? And that's when I talk about the mindset of when we only look at what we have set up, whether it's after a certain crisis, or do we do it by default?
It's quite interesting, because actually what came out from your second answer now are 2 points that came reoccurringly on the table yesterday. When you said possibilities people are not aware of, so it's again a question of awareness. Nothing to do with organization, nor technology, or not even mindset. It's just awareness, meaning awareness building. And the other part was that we work, even if we work for a interoperable solution, we work in silos. And that's something that came on the table yesterday, interdisciplinarity, which, when you think of it, the two terms are relatively easy to put in place. Maybe something to take forward. But please, Mr. Göster.
Thank you. So I would like to maybe lift the perspective a little bit. eCodex, I think, is a very interesting project, and of course with a great potential for ensuring interoperability between a national solution as a communication infrastructure. But before going into detail on eCodex, I would like to recall that from the point of view European Commission and the EU institutions, there are a number of other work tasks being carried out, aiming to improve interoperability. We have the European Interoperability Framework, which sets the frame, which lays down the principles for achieving interoperability, and a number of recommendations. And I mean, looking at how we implement the EIF in eJustice, there are a few examples perhaps that come to mind. A principle in the EIF is principle of openness and reusability. We have the eJustice portal since a number of years, which is based on those principles to create a one-stop shop for information on the EU and to have a single point really for everything that concerns eJustice. And based on the principle of reusability, so the eJustice portal uses the building blocks in the Connecting Europe facilities, e-delivery, e-signature, e-translation, and so on. And it is also promoting then a number of more interactive solutions and an interconnection works that then facilitate interoperability between, for instance, national registers. We have the business registers interconnection system launched on the portal in June. We are working on, I think it's an interesting project, to recall here the land registers interconnection project to interconnect national land registers, and that is, I think, a good example of not only of achieving technical interoperability, but legal and semantic interoperability, because you have to, when interconnecting the land registers, you have to agree on a common model for information about properties, the European Land Registers document, and you have to ensure the semantic interoperability between these documents. And you have also and the next step is to achieve some kind of more legal interoperability, a glossary that would explain how concepts like use of fruit, right, to use corresponds from one legal system to the other. And another example is the public documents regulation that entered into force this year, where you have models of number of documents like birth certificates. So if filled in one specific way, is valid also in other countries. And we are working on then establishing XML schemas for these models in the public documents regulation, thereby ensuring legal and semantic interoperability to facilitate for citizens to be able to supply such documents in other member states. So a reminder of that you know, there are a lot of little works going on here and there that together in the future I think will improve the situation of the different aspects of interoperability in the EU.
I'm posing a bit maybe a challenging question. Has the European Commission mapped how many these parallelly being developed interoperability frameworks are there currently? You mentioned BRIS, you mentioned land register interconnection, there's the e-Codex and the public document regulation that offers legal and semantic interoperability. Again, correct me if I'm wrong, but do I understand correctly that in somewhat silos, each section is working towards getting their own interoperability framework by field? Or maybe I'm being too strict here.
Well, I think that the e-Codex system is a way of being more cross-sectoral, possibly, okay, and a bit broader, even though, of course, the e-Codex system is developed for the area of justice.
For the time being.
Sorry?
For the time being, at least.
Yes, but one has to remember that e-Codex, the Domibus gateway developed within the e-Codex project, was the basis for the building block on e-delivery within the Connecting Europe facility, which is already being implemented beyond the area of justice. So I think there is a contribution here that has a more cross-sectoral application.
Just a second, Tanu. I'm taking a workshop question. I'm reading it out for you because I will first let it answer by Gustra once again, and then to the technical side. There is a question. Theoretically speaking, could e-codex also be used for home affairs? So I would first like to have the Commission point of view, and then Krum.
Yes, I believe so. There's nothing that prevents the technical solution as such as being used in that area. Now, I think it's very important to remember, and that's a message I want to take forward, is that it would be best here, I think, to achieve something in the medium term is to go to have a step-by-step approach.
Definitely.
And we have developed the e-codex system, which the consortium with EU funding and member state funding has developed this interesting system. And the next step is to ensure that it can be sustained and kept for the longer term. And then, we will see about its implementation further on.
So technically speaking, I believe I know the answer, but...
Well, of course, the answer is very short. And,
yes.
It is yes, because normally technology is neutral with regards to its use. But at the same time, we should be aware that in the home affairs domain, already exist several similar platforms that are used for exchange of law enforcement information, for exchange of information related to common visa policy and asylum. So e-codex, in a way, could just extend the portfolio that exists in home affairs, but at the same time we have similar platforms already deployed and working for a number of years. But I want to take the point from what I heard about the present situation within the interoperability. It only confirms my personal believe that we should turn the approach towards interoperability today as we all say that, okay, this is a priority. So far we were reactive with regards to the interoperability. Look at the home affairs domain, where the interoperability came from. It came as one of the responses to the terrorist attacks in the last year, as one of the responses to the migratory pressure that Europe faces. In other domains, again, what I see is more reaction to something demand from the citizens or political events rather than proactive approach. So from now on, if we want to make the best use of interoperability, we should be proactive, mapping the opportunities, bringing them together and having more consistent approach, even if we want roadmap which puts into perspective what are the priorities for the near future and for the longer term in terms of interoperability, what we want to achieve in order to be structured in the approach and also focused on allocation of the resources for interoperability, because interoperability doesn't come from free.
Definitely. I think on one hand, as yesterday, we all agreed on the once only principle. On the other hand, as can be seen today, we are talking about multiple interoperability frameworks that in essence probably does not support at all the idea of once only principle. But I promise to have his word, please.
You asked the question on have we done this sort of mapping, and I can't obviously answer for the Commission, but I know the Council has done it. And when I look at the picture on both Home Affairs and then Justice side, the Home Affairs picture has twice as many elements on there than the Justice side, maybe even more. On Justice side, I might get the number wrong, but roughly around 20. Different instruments to exchange information, some centralized, some decentralized. In the area of Home Affairs, that number is roughly 40 or even above. So as regards to that, whether that has been done, yes, we do have the picture of what is there. We have at least tried to make an attempt. Whether it's a complete picture, well, we have tried it. But as to whether e-codex could be also used in Home Affairs domain, well, we have talked quite a bit on the e-evidence or European investigation orders, both which do touch actually Home Affairs. And here, okay, I'm not very much the judicial expert, but in most countries, I believe it's the police who carries out the different investigations. So they will be the behind the scene who will request the investigation order to be issued. Yeah, it might be the prosecuting authority that does it, but again, it's the law enforcement which initiates that, and the same will be for the evidence. So there is a very, very clear business synergy.
Ernst, you had a point to make?
I got good news for Tomu. Since yesterday we learned from the Commission that we got awarded the
The loud and clear?
the proposal for connecting the reference implementation being made by the Commission, and of course the connection will be through eCodex. Then again, I would like to say something a little bit about the history of eCodex, which makes it even a little bit clearer why eCodex is not only suitable as a solution for the home domain and for the justice domain, but also for the domain of procurement, for the domain of for health. In the early days of eCodex, the Commission, and in this case the DG Connect, asked us to discuss with the other domains which I just mentioned to see and find a common solution for e-delivery, and to also find a common way to describe processes, to describe semantic interoperability. And well, we achieved at this stage the interoperability or the common solution for e-evidence, and I think we could continue this discussions with the other domains as well on issues like how to describe processes, how to create a common repository for semantic interoperability. And then again, you will see that in a lot of domains, justice or legal issues, they play a very prominent role. So the influence of having something that serves the justice domain is very important, not only for the justice domain itself, but also for domains making use of all kinds of legal procedures.
Okay, so if I understand again correctly, the problem, if we can call it really a problem, is that the debate has to go on and then the agreement made, which would be the prevailing interoperability framework, so to say, the one and only for the EU in the longer run.
I would say it will be organic.
I'm sorry?
I would say it will be organic. Like, if we could see, like, of course, eCodex has built upon the lessons learned by other domains. Like Kroon was saying, the lessons learned from Home Affairs, of course, they were in the minds of, and they were described, and we could onboard it in justice as well. And I think now that the eCodex is a very mature solution that can work for a long period of time. But we have to be clear about the technological advances that are going faster and faster and faster, that in a couple of years, in 10, 20, 50, whatever years, the solution will change. It's just the way it is. So in that way, we will also be able to learn of other domains. So it's more like, that's what I mean with organic growth as well.
I will slightly disagree with Ernst because I don't believe that organic growth is what we need in order to bring us to the state of the play of interoperability we aim at. Commission mentioned the interoperability framework, and that was a really important step towards interoperability. But I think now if we all agree that interoperability is a priority, we need to make the other steps that follow. And the other steps definitely are about defining proper interoperability architecture at your level, defining the necessary standards for interoperability, which for the moment are based on silo approach, and we have plenty of examples that we can find in justice and home affairs domain. And then going further to have a really common framework that addresses the different aspects of interoperability, technical of course, but also organizational, operational, and policy, in order to bring them all together and have a unified and common approach towards that. Otherwise, I'm afraid in the future we will also witness those different bubbles or silos, or as you said, different interoperability frameworks which will be in competition to some extent with each other. But at the same time, we should not forget one of the main objectives of interoperability, to improve or bring more efficiency in the way we use the data and information today, having a critical mass of information systems across Europe in different policy domains.
Don't know, a comment?
I don't know if it's good to say whether we have, in the end, one framework that prevails. Definitely, I don't think that one solution fits all. But as regards to the framework, well, we have a number of different modes for transport. We're not all flying, whether the propeller planes or jumbo jets being the different solutions of one framework, but we also have a different frameworks for traveling. So I'm not fully convinced yet that one framework fits, although principles should be the same, once only, etc., etc.
I have to say, a very interesting idea from an Estonian. I'm trying to picture what are you exactly saying. So different interoperability frameworks working together, all serving for the once only principle, if I understood you correctly.
Well, in Estonia, X-Road is a method of delivering upon certain principles, once only, high security, service provider independent, etc., etc. But we're not using that to communicate, for instance, with our US partners. So we will always have a multiple of different tools and frameworks in place in order to deliver the full service to our customers, whether the police or the border guard, but ultimately to our own citizens or the visitors.
Okay, I think I get your point. Since we are limited with time, I'm not going in greater detail, it's very interesting, but actually what I wanted to take upon, and Krum already answered it in his last comment, was what would be the next steps for interoperability? From your viewpoint, I understood it's deciding on interoperability infrastructure. Architecture. But again, I would like to give the word to European Commission. What do you feel from the Commission side to ensure that we can implement this one solely principle for which the interoperability framework is a must? So what are the concrete steps that should be taken?
Well, to implement the once-only principle, we mentioned yesterday the Commission proposal for a single digital gateway. So I think agreeing on that very fast is a priority, and then hopefully to implement it and achieve a first step towards applying properly the once-only principle. But I want to come back also to eCodex. I mean, I think that we should now take stock of what we have, which is a developed system infrastructure in eCodex, and try to ensure that we can keep it and find a proper governance framework for it. So that's, I think, it's an immediate task for us in the Commission to look at ways of ensuring the sustainability of eCodex. That's an immediate priority, and evaluate the different options that could be found for that, and make a proposal. And then, of course, hopefully agree in the Council and Parliament on how eCodex should be governed in the future. And then, as the further step, really to apply eCodex concretely and to move forward towards, compared to the present situation where there's a limited number of member states participating concretely in the eCodex pilots, to be able to move to a situation where the majority or all member states actually participate in eCodex. I think that's a crucial objective. And here, indeed, I think the eIDAS project is a case in point, which will hopefully permit a wider application of eCodex, and to ensure then that we will apply eCodex for the reference platform that is being developed for exchange of European investigation orders between public prosecutors. and thereby, indeed, as was mentioned, having perhaps a link to the Home Affairs domain. So through the e-evidence project, I think we can improve the uptake of e-codex, and then from that also moving towards a wider application of e-codex to other cross-border legal procedures.
Thank you very much. That was a very in-depth answer. And actually, you made a perfect introduction for the second part of this panel on the sustainability.
Yes.
My question actually was that if we want to ensure digital Europe, then we of course have to talk about the sustainability. And may we talk it in the context of more precisely e-codex or whatever interoperability framework. But since you chose the e-codex now, well, for the time being, e-codex is still managed on a project basis. So I think this is where your question also stemmed from, that a fast decision needs to be taken. If I'm not mistaken, November 2018 is the end of the project, I believe, for the time being. So I would like to hear all of your ideas, may it be for the e-codex, or if you feel that you want to broaden it for any interoperability framework. What should be sustainability plan be for e-codex or any other interoperability framework that you feel dear to your heart? I will give the floor first to Danu.
Well, if I look at not the technical solution, but what actually flows through, the data in it, and I think more towards the digital evidence or investigation orders, this is a pretty sensitive stuff. This is before someone has yet been sentenced guilty. But if this data should leak, that could do a very, very big reputation damage to someone possibly innocent. So yes, when the Commission representative talked about the governance, this is the key. And we should consider indeed the sensitivity nature of the data and whether we should give it to the private sector, which is a viable option, technically. But given the data that flows there, is that the best option to really deliver on the safeguards and privacy? And here, in my own personal belief, eIDAS should be the right body, because we have set up an agency in the Justice and Home Affairs domain to deliver technical solutions without an access to data. They have proven in the last nearly 5 years already that they have existed, that they are indeed competent in this, and we could trust them more and more.
So what do you think about the Chrome? Do you want to have the mandate if it is given?
Can I contradict the presidency?
Of course not.
Apparently not. No, seriously speaking, before I answer, or I meant what Tono said, I just want to make a remark related to sustainability. Well, initiatives like e-codex or any big technology initiative, and we have plenty in Europe those days, and there will be more in the future, goes through 3 main stages: the project stage, the operational stage, and then the evolution based on the evolving needs of the stakeholders. So far, unfortunately, we are not good in planning the whole life cycle. We focus on the project, and then when the project reaches certain maturity, start thinking, what shall we do next? Who will do the job for us? And that's unsustainable. In order to have sustainable solutions, we should be able, when we start such initiatives, already from the moment when the policy need is identified, to plan ahead and say, okay, for the project, we want to involve member states because they have vested interest. Then for the result of the project, we want to hand it over to an EU body or to create a new one. And that should be put in time perspective. So we need to have a game plan in order to have sustainability. And then going from the broader picture to what Tono said, yes, of course, my view has always been, not only because I'm speaking today at Justice Community, but from the very start of the agency, that having an IT agency in Europe means that we should use the capabilities, the knowledge and experience that that agency collects through the time in order to utilize and expand its contribution to the member states in EU, meaning utilizing the existing capabilities for new solutions that are needed to Europe in order to progress in justice domain, in home affairs domain, maybe in the future in customs domain. So In this case, I agree with the presidency that this is a sustainable solution, having eIDAS charged to take care for the operational management of eCodex and the future evolution of the platform.
I just want to comment on your first reflection that the project goes through three phases: project, operation, evolution, and that we should think of straight from the beginning who to hand over the project to. So in a broader sense, I understand the idea. On the other hand, I'm also thinking that at one point, if you want to test something and have a proof of concept, at the end of the project, you might actually not even have an idea who to give it to. So that might also be sometimes the possibility why, even if willing, you cannot yet make such decisions because the project has to prove oneself, or
True.
it depends on the project.
True, but I will refer to what Tonu said at the beginning. He was speaking about the mental models and mental silos. Basically, in order to have the answer to your question, we need to break the mental silos that we have. And we should start thinking more horizontally rather than limiting the options only in particular area or particular policy domain we are into. And if we can do that, then we will have the answers.
Thank you. Just a second, Tanu.
okay.
Oh, you want to comment on the last comment?
I just want to build on that when Ernst said before that possibly eCodex could evolve into something else or be abandoned completely and taken over by a new technology in the future, then if we keep the technologies apart, the fields apart, how do we know that there is a synergy? This synergy cannot come from top down, the ministers demanding to use one or another technology. No, this can come only bottom up. And if there is a common provider for all this, they can say, actually, guys, you have two similar processes, the same technology, put it together, we can save a lot of money.
Everyone's nodding, very good. The Commission viewpoint on the sustainability of eCodex or some other interoperability framework?
Well, I think that we have invested a lot of EU public money and member state money in developing the eCodex solution. So it seems like very reasonable to ensure that we can make the best use of this investment, EU and national investment, and ensure the sustainability of eCodex. So I think that's something we probably all agree about, that we absolutely need to do it. So it's not controversial. The issue is how to do it. And I think there are different options that we have to look at from the Commission side. And one of which is EU-LISA, another one that we would do it ourselves in the Commission, or of course, and we have to evaluate those options. But I think it's also very important that we lay down a proper, I repeat it again, a proper governance framework so that the system will be used and governed in a way which involves the proper involvement of member states and can take into account input from stakeholders. And which is something which is repeatedly emphasized by the member states is the need, of course, for a system, for an e-justice system to respect the independence of the national judiciaries and to make sure that the governance structure caters for that.
So I understand that the Commission has a list or some list of options to go through to make the decision, but has the Commission decided when they will make the decision?
Well, we are carrying out then this impact assessment process, and we have to do that in accordance with the Commission's guidelines on impact assessment, and it has to be then evaluated also by the Commission's internal board. It's called a Regulatory Scrutiny Board, which evaluates impact assessments and gives an opinion. And on the basis of that, we can make a proposal. And the current planning would be to do that in the beginning of next year.
Okay.
And then one would launch the negotiations on that basis in the Council and Parliament.
Thank you. There was actually, we had such a vivid discussion that there are many questions, but I just did not want to really stop it. I will take one, if I can still see, because it was on impact assessment. It was an impact assessment on the legal basis. I cannot see it right now, but I read it. So is there planned, or has there been done, an impact assessment on the legal basis, I suppose, for the interoperability framework? Yes, please.
Well, I'm not going to talk on behalf of the Commission, but at least speaking about interoperability in Home Affairs domain, yes, that was done. It was part of the work of the high-level expert group chaired by the Commission, which worked in the last year and a half, and there is a comprehensive report on that. And based on the report and based on the work that the Commission together with you, Lisa, did, and we continue to do, exploring different aspects of interoperability, in December, there will be a legal proposal from the Commission that will basically aims to create the legal framework for interoperability, at least in Home Affairs domain. So yes, this is something that has been addressed already, at least for Home Affairs.
Anyone on the justice side?
Maybe
Yes, Ernst?
I would like to say a little bit about sustainability as well.
Please do.
Since no, I think it's important to really be detailed about what we mean by sustainability. So, for the eCodex community, I can say that sustainability consists of inclusiveness, IT management, and budget and governance. And by inclusiveness, I would mean that citizens have to be taken into account, especially if we are talking about civil law and about family law. We cannot do without any citizen. I think, of course, the member state solutions should be taken into account. The solutions available at the European level should be taken into account. But especially, and I would like to emphasize that part as well, is the solution that exists already with the legal professionals. They have been working on their solutions for a long time as well. And they have been very, very detailed in the needs and to service the needs of the different legal professionals. And we cannot go past these systems as well. They should be part of what we want to be interoperable too. Then on the subject of IT management, I think the preference of the eCodex community is very clear. We have been laying that down already in council conclusions as well. So the only suitable option for eCodex would be EULISA. Like, we have done an extensive research based on different criteria, and the solution, or the agency that came out was EULISA by far. So that's why we want to end up with EULISA as well. And then on the issue of budget and governance, we are starting in the eCodex community a research into governance. And governance is really a broad, a broad word. There's a broad concept. There's a lot to think of, and I think you should be very precise as well. Like, what are we really going to govern? If we are talking about the governance of eCodex, are we talking about the technical infrastructure? Are we talking about the procedures that are going to be supported by eCodex, or is it going to be how we are able to shift between domains and between continents? So if we are not precise enough on what we are going to govern, we cannot be very precise like how we're going to do it.
And
so
who is going to do it? And who is going to do it?
And who is going to do it? So we really have to think, what are the requirements, what are the needs, and who are the stakeholders relevant for this kind of element that we want to govern. So I think that we will start late November. There's preparations ongoing. We will try to have an intermediate result somewhere in spring, so it can be part of the, we hope it can be part of the foreseen regulation and negotiations in the next year. But also to be very precise and to be able to also attract and involve the different stakeholders. So we start small with our own consortium, but then in the end, we will also try to attract as many people as possible. And once we know like what are the elements that need to be governed, we also can make a more detailed estimation about the budget that is needed. Because if we know what has to be governed, who is going to govern, then we can also say where the budget should be placed and who would be the one paying for the governance. So sustainability is a very nice, I think we all look forward to have eCodex sustained and also to have the other e-justice systems sustained, of course. But to be very precise on what are the elements that we are talking about, I think it's very, very important. And I hope we can take lessons from the home affairs domain as well to make really big next steps.
A technical question from the audience. Is there any technical interoperability between eIDs used in the member states so far? And is the Commission setting up technical standards to enhance such interoperability?
Maybe I can say something about it too.
Please.
I think we started, so eCodex started before the negotiations on eIDAS started. So we had to find something ourselves. And I think we found it in the circle of trust, where we said something like, it's a very basic impression of what we have achieved, but if one member state trusts its own authentication item or instrument, then the other member state will trust that item as well, because we are living in the European Union and we want to create a circle of trust. So this is how we did overcome the different eIDs in the different countries, because also all different member states had a different approach to the authentication of the users inside their domain. So then again, you can see how we put subsidiarity into our solution. So if you want to decide it by yourself, it's up to the member states to come up with a solution for authentication. It's still up to them. So we needed to find a solution that would be able to serve. And we found that, and we created that with eCodex.
Yes, please, from the Commission side.
Well, perhaps I just a reminder there that there are the technical building blocks developed within the Connecting Europe facility, which includes, apart from e-delivery, e-signature, also eID, which are available for reuse, and for all the building blocks within the Connecting Europe facility, the issue of sustainability arises, so it goes beyond eCodex, and that's something to be reflected on, how to ensure the sustainability of all these actual technical solutions in the future.
Yes, Tanu?
In anyone who is familiar with the latest version of the delegates portal, which is where the council distributes all its documents now, that you can log in using, for most of the national IDs which exist, that is building upon the eIDAS and the STORK program and the number of initiatives that the Commission has had over the last few years. So it is starting, perhaps not as fast as Estonians would like, but definitely it's moving.
I'm taking one last question from the workshop. I believe the answer to the question partly will be addressed in the governance analysis that the eCodex community wants to carry out, but maybe I'm understanding it incorrectly. So here it goes, it's a long one. The right to an impartial and independent tribunal in relation to the future governance and coordination of the eCodex, and the eCodex related activities, doesn't it demand that the independence of the judiciary should also be guaranteed as well? And how in EU LISA? So I think it really falls on the governance analysis that you addressed earlier.
Well, of course, I'm not really sure if what I'm telling about the governance or the research into governance is really the answer to this question. But I must say that especially respecting the independence of the judiciary is at the heart of the investigation that we are trying to pursue. So there's, of course, we want to govern very well all these different components that we easily recognize inside eCodex, but especially how to respect the independence of the judiciary will very much be part of our investigation.
Maybe Lisa wants to comment on it?
Well, yeah, but there is no much to be commented because I sense that this is work in progress. Yet eIDAS has its own governance structure based on its present establishing regulation. I believe the forthcoming legal base for e-codex will address also the governance issue. Just a remark, I understand the intention and the need justice community to have its own guarantees that they will be able to decide on their own the destiny of e-codex and other solutions that can be entrusted to you, Elisa. A part of the governance, there is another important other condition in order to make that happen, and it is to have sufficient, first of all, sufficient resources allocated to justice needs, made available to EU LISA, and at the same time to have a clear cut between the resources that are required and needed EU LISA to fulfill its duties in the Home Affairs domain and the resources that are allocated to EU LISA in order to fulfill its purpose, supporting developments in justice domain. This is important complement to the governance model that we will put in place.
Yes, Tino?
Quick comment, the requirement for the independence of judiciary to be maintained is already in the draft council text for the towards the general approach of the next revision of the EU LISA, and that stems already from the ECRIS discussions.
Okay,
Right.
good news.
Very good.
True. Okay, so I will try to make a small recap. We talked about how to ensure interoperability and sustainability for the e-justice for Digital Europe more in wider sense as well. I believe it is correct to say that what we want to draw from this panel, the first and foremost of the next step is we will all be waiting for the beginning of 2018 from the Commission side for the decision. And then if the decision comes all parallelly, we have to all decide on the interoperability architecture, how to sustain e-codex. So this is closely connected with the beginning of next year. And in parallel, if it will be EU LISA or some other institution or the Commission carry out the governance analysis, meaning whoever will govern and maintain the e-codex, what they will be governing precisely. And from that on, the third option actually, not option, but decision point is that who has a responsibility also has the resources needed. So it's the beginning of next year, the decision, the analysis, and then the budget. Correct? Hopefully.
Very good summary.
Yeah.
Sounds great. Well, we have been very efficient. I thank you very much. Everyone can continue the discussion on the topic during the coffee break that actually will last for nearly 40 minutes, but kindly wait all you back here at 12 o'clock when we make the last live broadcast from the black box, because in the afternoon you will see the hackathon teams already here on the stage and live. And if you haven't visited, please visit the exhibition area during the coffee break. Let's continue the discussion. Thank you to the panelists.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I hope the last persons in the coffee break will find their way back to our conference hall. I promised the last live broadcast to the black box room. So actually, without further ado, I would give the word to Elisa for her to, among other things, introduce the jury that will also choose their favorite, in addition to the audience favorite of all the hackathon teams. Elisa, please, back to the black box.
Hi, the last 2 hours just flew by in here as the teams have been preparing for their final pitch. Every single team will have 3 minutes to present what they have been building basically in just 24 hours, and how their impact and solution would be important. The teams have been practicing their pitch, they've prepared the slides, they've prepared the visual output of the product that they also want to show. One of the very, very important elements is that you at the conference hall will see the teams in just 1 hour and a half, and the favorite of the audience will be chosen through workshop. So please be ready to do that as well. In here, in a few minutes when the teams pitch at the hackathon stage, we have the jury who will ask further questions and who will also figure out who will be the winner of this hackathon. So let me introduce quickly who will be in the jury. We have Mehis Siffert, who will be head of the jury. Hi, Mehis. We have Gösta Petri, who is deputy head of the eJustice at the European Commission. Hello. We have Ilja Livenson, who has been also technical mentor and seen the teams yesterday and today as well. Hello, Ilja. We have Riho Gurk, who is a cybersecurity mentor over here. Hi. And Rain Ranno, a business mentor and angel investor as well. So these 5 people will choose the winner, but favorite audience is something that you can do. Hey, teams. Let's try that once more. The point is, are you excited to pitch for everybody in just a moment? Yeah! So this is what we have over here. Let's see you in just an hour and a half. Bye.
We wave back, they won't see, but we can wave and applaud them a bit later on the stage. While they finalize their pitches and presentations, we have the great opportunity to think of the future of e-justice. This really is a moment to look any idea that you, also from the audience, feel that should be the goal of the future of e-justice. First, I would like to invite to join me on stage this time 5 panelists. First of all, Ms. Kai Härmand, who is the Deputy Secretary General and Head of the Legislative Policy Department at the Ministry of Justice of Estonia. Please join me. Dr. Christian Nicolaou, who is the Head of the e-Justice IT and Document Management Unit at the DG for Justice and Consumers from the European Commission. Welcome. Mr. Alain Piet, Head of the Judicial Cooperation in Civil Matters Unit at the General Secretariat of the Council. Dr. Martin Schneider, Head of Legal Informatics at the Austrian Ministry of Justice. And last but not least, Mr. Krasimir Voinov, First Secretary of Justice and Home Affairs at the Permanent Representation of the Republic of Bulgaria to the European Union. Welcome. Well, I believe the name of the panel is already quite a good introduction to the topic itself. Nevertheless, I have already said that we talked about the near future or the core of e-justice and digital Europe. We talked about the medium-term outlooks or goals we want to strive for. In other words, we have found ways and common grounds on all of the topics covered up until now. Hence, I actually propose to start this future e-justice panel by first taking a leap forward and assuming either that all of the topics we have covered have already been reached, or see these topics not as goals, but rather measures to get to the next big goal for e-justice. So what I'm trying to say here is that I would like you to think big, and I would challenge you by asking what should be the next big goal for e-justice, in your opinion, in a broader sense. Since when we have the next big goal in mind, we can come in the second part of the panel a step down and think of the, so to say, half-term goals or measures that should be taken in concrete actions to reach the big goal. But in my opinion, to set the big goal is important, to know where we want to end up with. So think big, and actually I will also refer to a bit later on to the audience when they can contribute to thinking big as well. First and foremost, ladies first, Ms. Kai.
Okay, hello. Well, I've always loved history, and since I was a child already, so I looked at the history of the e-justice, or actually the previous strategies and action plans. And I'd say that the aim of serving people is the same. But I think the big challenge here, or the next goal we have to reach is to change the mentality. The mentality, let's say, from paper to digital. We have always encouraged the cross-border movement, and we have always understand that in European Union we need tools to achieve this cross-border or ease the cross-border activities. But I think when we think about all these instruments that we have, it's still a paper world. We think about sending documents, not exchanging information. So I think that's the mentality thing is the
Seems
challenge.
like a small goal, but actually a huge one to really reach it. I agree. Who wants to be next with their big goal in mind? Yes, please.
Okay. Thank you. I think if we focus on the task to fulfill in the European e-justice, it's, first of all, it's cooperation. Cooperation between member states, but also enhance access for the users to European e-justice and also cross-border to the justice systems of the different member states. Second thing which we should support is mutual legal assistance. I think this is a very important topic where high potential can be found. And now I'm coming to the media, which is necessary to fulfill this, and this is where we should focus on. It's standardized communication, structured communication, of course. It must be secure and, of course, authenticated, as we spoke about already very often about this, with a codex as a backbone. And next layer is interconnection of databases, of important and relevant databases. We already have the interconnection of the business registers, the interconnection of insolvency registers. We are facing the interconnection of land register, where we'll start now a project. And now we are coming to the tools, often mentioned and again mentioned. It's, of course, a codex. And we need standardized forms to fulfill this, because standardized forms have the advantage that they can be easily automatically translated from the fixed text. Only the content is standard. We need, again, auto-translation. We should have a look on this issue. And we should look a little also on tools of artificial intelligence. We could need this to guide the user to the enormous heap of information which we have in the justice portal and national or from the member states, but also from the European Union. We know that artificial intelligence instruments can help users to find very quickly, easily the information they need. We know it from medicine systems, and we could have also a look on this. And also, if we are going to applications, this can help that we get out information on the applications from persons, national and also on the European level, that we can have stricter data, that we can lead this application to the right place. And looking at the project of e-evidence, it's also an opportunity, because e-evidence, we have the very high possibility to get heaps of data again from the evidence. It could be terabytes, and to analyze this data, tools of artificial intelligence could be also helpful. So we should have a plan, and we of course should reflect this in the action plan and in the strategy, which is going to prepare now under the Bulgarian presidency, and let's hopefully finalize under the Austrian presidency.
Thank you very much. I believe some of the goals you set forth, for me at least, could already be the ones. Actually, you also refer to them as tools: auto-translation, standardized forms, e-evidence. For me, these seem like the half-term goals, in the sense that these are measures to reach the big goal. But I'm glad that you also mentioned artificial intelligence, because this was something stated by Commissioner Jourova in her speech. I was quite astonished that she took on the subject. That is quite a goal, without defining what precisely was meant. So, for example, Alain, what is your take on the artificial intelligence or the next big thing for e-justice?
Well, yes, I think artificial intelligence will be a challenge. But let me rebound on what Kai and Martin has said, because I think that both intervention encapsulated the different direction to be taken in terms of challenges. I think they are twofold or threefold. First of all, I think the current objective of the e-justice program are still valid, which is a better access to information through the portal, the semantic web, ECLI, ELI, all those information. I think we need to move forward. Those are very concrete achievement. Access to court, then eCodex, video conferencing, ODR are very concrete project too. And better communication and easier communication between judicial authorities and their eCodex, eIDAS, we have already broached earlier in that conference, are very useful tools. So those are very concrete projects. We need to continue, we need to improve, and I think those objectives are still valid. But rebounding on what Kai has said, I think we need to see now a wider perspective that has been demonstrated during these 2 days conferences. In the sense that e-justice is only one part of the IT revolution, of the digitization of the world. So we have developed in the context of e-justice at the initiative of member states very useful and powerful tools like eCodex, which has a vocation to be used beyond just the justice community, as it has been discussed earlier today. And in other world, in home affairs and in other sectors, they're also developing tools that can be used in justice. So I think that one challenge for e-justice is to be part of a community discussing together, investing together on new instruments that can be useful for health, for justice, for home affairs, for every sector that need to be equipped with IT system. And that's a strategy that needs to be developed on how to communicate, how to discuss at European level, within the European institutions, and especially the different sectors, the different DGs within the Commission, in order to have an integrated program, and within the member state, the different ministers, the different administrations, how to work together in order to build tools which are interoperable within the judicial world, but also interoperable across the different communities, also for a question of investment and spending money, developing tools that are useful everywhere. Then for what regards artificial intelligence, which was your question that I need to respond to, yes, I was very pleased to hear Commissioner Jourova broaching that issue, because as you know, Europe has been very pusillanimous regarding artificial intelligence compared to the United States or China. So if we don't want to lag behind, I think we need to put a lot of energy on that. And so that artificial intelligence in the domain of justice already exists. You have predictive justice, you have document treatment systems, you have also judgment-making softwares that work quite efficiently, and which mainly have been developed by big law firms in the United States. They can use the system. It makes their job easier and faster. So what is important for artificial intelligence and for networks, which are the two pillars, I think, for a very sustainable system, is the data and the network. It's the Metcalfe law that the more user you have, the more valuable is your network. So interconnection, interoperability between the different stakeholders makes the network. And the data, we have already started working on the data. We have formidable projects like ECLI and ELI that allow metadata to be found in legislation and in case law that can be used by software using artificial intelligence. for predictive justice, for making judgment. So here we need to be quite careful, I would say, in the sense that we can't make half the way, providing the data to the public and considering that artificial intelligence and software is not a mission of public service too, in the sense that it shouldn't be only for the big law firm having those artificial intelligence tools, using the data we have provided to the public, but not using also the data for the judges, for not as wealthy lawyers, and to be used all across Europe in all the member states. Then it's linked to the question of equipment that has been brought yesterday to, especially by the two Dutch colleagues, judge and representative of the ministry. Equipment for the judiciaries that need to be well distributed across Europe. Otherwise, if we have, like it is today, Estonia, for instance, very well equipped, another member state not so well equipped, at the moment the problem of interconnection will worsen instead of improving, because you can't interconnect a very developed country with IT tools with a country which doesn't have the equipment if the judge is not equipped. And then you have the problem of the access to that by the citizen. Free internet access instead of very expensive internet access, and possibility to afford a computer, to have a free of charge ID reading card. And here we have huge differences between the member states. So it's also something that should be part of that. So I think that in the strategy we need to focus on very concrete achievement, and Martin has given some examples of those very concrete achievements, very concrete tools. But in the meantime, a longer perspective strategy in terms of public investment and building a community across with a wider circle of stakeholders and actors than what we have today, going beyond just the justice word and putting together all the energies, having IT tools that can be used not only in the justice world but also in other sectors.
Your last point pretty much boils down to interdisciplinarity again, if I understand correctly.
Yes.
Okay, but what is the viewpoint from the European Commission on the future of e-justice? Please, Christian.
Well, it's, I would like to start with the viewpoint from an engineer side.
Oh, yes, please do. that is very interesting as well.
Because for me, I think for the new generation of the e-justice system, we have a degree of consumerization that we need to achieve. And we need to achieve that pretty quickly. Remember, like 25 years ago, actually, for me, it was the case when I received my first PC, I received also a book like that on how to use it. And even with the book, it was quite complicated. Now we are living in a world where we have apps and actually no indication on how to use them. My 10-year-old daughter has no problem in operating any tablet or smartphone and so on, but I still have big troubles telling her to look left when she crosses the street. This is the new generation of users also for the judicial systems, that they were born in a world where many things are at their fingertips. So they cannot understand the mechanics of, going to court or going to a notary. For them is www. something. So I think the new and the next generation of e-justice systems have to address that. Not only for this reason that the new generation, and I'm not speaking about my 10-year-old daughter, I think there are generations of lawyers that are graduating as we speak, that they were born digital and that they want to use the tool in their day-to-day life. This is their approach. They don't have a mindset that it's based on scanning workflows that appeared 20 years ago. Their mindset is completely different. It took me quite a while to understand what the social media generation actually means. Well, it doesn't mean that we use social media for the e-justice process necessarily. It's just about the fact that we have a different take on the world as is. So with that in mind, I think the new generation of e-justice systems have to be designed from the user's perspective, from the European citizen's perspective, which is highly mobile, at very young ages, and for which cross-border transactions, even with the judicial systems, are highly likely to happen and very important. So let's take like the easiest case where you get a fine in one country, you receive it back home and you want to contest it. You will not travel back just to contest the fine. Probably you're gonna pay it, and anyway you receive it 2 months afterwards. So it's very difficult, but access to justice should allow you to exercise your right to contest that fine without having disproportionate costs. So I think the new generation of the e-justice system have to come from a different perspective. Also, you were speaking about artificial intelligence. Actually, I looked up on YouTube a few days ago of the world's first virtual lawyer. What is that? Well, pretty simple. Somebody designed a set of templates for contesting in court a number of procedures. What is the quick result of that? Is that people find it much more easy to go to court and contest procedure. What is the result for the court? They'll have to deal with 10 times, 50 times, 100 times more procedures. Is going to have 10-fold or 100-fold to increase the population of the courthouses? Personally, I doubt that. So the new generation of the IT system, of the e-justice system, have to take that into account as well. The increase of business for small claims, for instance, as a result of automation on the part of the consumer. Because whether we are doing it or not, the private sector will achieve some automation in this area as well, and that will reflect upon us.
Thank you very much. I think your first question was, well, or issue was user focus. That actually came out strongly during yesterday's first panel, during the Digital by Default panel, that we should focus on the user. Again, the same reoccurring goals, which I'm actually more than happy to see, because we're talking about 5 different topics as if, but on the other hand, we can boil them down to 2, 3 common goals altogether. I have a very good question from the workshop. I'll actually turn back to it later on, because I want everyone to express their goals at first, but it was precisely what you said about the artificial intelligence from the lawyer side. So the question apparently is, maybe artificial intelligence can also replace in some simple cases, judges. But we'll get back to that a bit later on. Kai had a point, but before I give you the word, I will also let our Bulgarian colleague to think big first, and then to Kai.
Okay, thank you for giving me the word. First of all, I would like to express my gratitude to the Estonian presidency for organizing this wonderful conference.
Thank you very much on behalf of the presidency.
Giving us the opportunity to exchange our views concerning the future of e-justice. E-justice is, first of all, the future is unpredictable. Everybody knows this. But actually, we are here to share some thoughts about what will be the plan, what are our expectations concerning the next period of e-justice. So, the first time I can remember the broadened use of somehow to say the e-justice or the access to information concerning cross-border cooperation, it was when the European Judicial Atlas was used in civil and commercial matters, was used very broadened by practitioners and lawyers in Bulgaria, for instance, also in other EU member states. What should be the development, the purpose of e-justice in the next few years, for instance? The e-justice, first of all, should be user-friendly oriented. It means, yesterday, one of the panels, our colleague said that the use, for instance, of small claims is not so big. So we should think how to facilitate all this look of the e-justice in the web, into the web. Concerning this, we should also think to include some new topics of the e-justice, in the e-justice area. What I mean? Concerning the service of documents, for instance, in the civil matters, the taking of evidence, or some other topics. What will be actually the purpose, the aim of this? The aim will be to facilitate the cross-border cooperation at European level, and the aim will be to think that the European citizen could have better access to justice, and actually he or she could use and protect their rights better at European level. Because of that, I'm thinking that it should be the main purpose to use the tools we have now, but to think and to develop more areas where e-justice could be involved. And I think it would be one of our main purposes. Thank you very much.
Kai, please, your comment.
Yes, just a few comments. I totally agree that we should focus on the users, but I think we don't need to be afraid of making the difference between users, because there are practitioners, professionals, lawyers, judges who need different kinds of information and access to e-justice tools than different user groups like from like the whole society. And the second thing I think we have to bear in mind somewhere here is that is fundamental rights. And we should encourage through e-justice or through technology to give people of different member states equal treatment. If we look at the justice scoreboard, the average procedure time in Estonia for civil case is 97 days. And I think we have the second place on the justice scoreboard. And the last ones, which are the countries, I'm not saying the names, but you can all check yourself, which are the countries who don't use electronic means. The average is 400 days, 1,000 days. So it's more than 3 years. In Estonia, you can get a judgment within 3 months. So I think both people, Estonian people and the people from that other country, they all need or deserve equal possibilities.
Thank you very much. I will try to make a midterm, a small recap, so we can take the bigger goals to the more concrete ones, although we have already touched upon them. There were several things pointed out. I stated now, I would take 4 of them onwards: change the mentality, AI, going into detail on that a bit later on, user focus again on the table, and I would rephrase the existing goal of better access to information for, given that there was also access to justice and the speed, or hence I would rephrase it as better and faster access to information and justice. So that covers access to information, access to justice, and also the need from the citizen side that actually justice is served in the most possible, fastest manner as possible. Now, if we think of these 4 goals and try to think of the half-term goals or measures, however you put them, or tools, to reach these big goals. Again, a number of things were already issued. E-evidence project, auto-translation, standardized forms, small claims project from the user interface perspective. But I would like to add something else that was briefly touched upon, the e-justice portal. Again, I'm referring to Commissioner Jourova's speech, where she said it is visited or receives 3.3 million, 5 million visits per year. Hence, it definitely is a tool. It is moving from an information-based towards an interactive. But what could be practically the next steps to, for example, with the big goals in mind, to do with the e-justice portal, in your opinion, the small projects that would add interactivity layer more to the justice portal? Please.
I think the justice portal should be or could be developed more, including more and new, difficult, interesting new topics concerning not only to find a bailiff, find a lawyer. We should think some new, interesting topics who are really oriented to the praxis. Maybe we could speak about the electronic communication concerning the mutual legal assistance between the member states. Or somehow we can think here to invent new possibilities for better, I say it again, better access to justice. But the aim is to say that actually to promote the using of e-justice portal through the customers, through the European citizens. I think it would be one of the main goals for the next period.
One point you said, awareness building.
Excuse me?
Awareness building.
Yes,
awareness.
exactly. Yeah.
Okay, other ideas? Yes, please, Kai.
Well, there are quite a lot of ideas, I think, but...
Very good.
But one thing is interactivity. For example, this finding a lawyer. You have to type in or look for a country and then a place or a region and then a city. But I think, especially for the young ones, you mentioned, for quite a lot of people is much easier to find the place on the map. You have just a map, and you zoom to the map, and you find your lawyer in Berlin. So these kind of options, I think that's one thing.
From the user-focused perspective.
Yes, and another thing is that we actually need not general information, but we need quite specific information. For example, if I'm a judge in Estonia and I know that there are related cases in Finland, for example, it's a family case, so I actually need to get or need to track the Finnish case. Are they finished? Is there a judgment? Are there pending cases? And so on, so on. So I need that. Right now, I'm relying on the information given by the lawyers. And I am pretty sure that the possibility for a judge to let's say, supervise in the sense of timing or get the information about the pending cases, or also from a user, common person's perspective, to get the information about your case. Not, of course, details, but very detailed information. But still, whether it's in the first instance, it's in appeal court, and so on and so on.
That seems like a separate project already put into exactly what we're talking about. Just a parenthesis, we will probably see that later on, but maybe some of the ideas, yes, I will give you the floor in a second, maybe some of the ideas from the hackathon might also contribute to the interactivity of the e-justice portal, was my thought. There was this legal, Google for lawyers, or then it was this who are adept travelers, for example, to find legal information. So these might be some practical solutions that bit by bit make the e-justice portal into a more active one. Please, you wanted to comment.
My thoughts about the European e-justice portal are that the e-justice portal should be made more user-friendly. I won't say that it is not user-friendly at the moment, but things are developing very rapidly. And I think there are now possibilities to support users better. And coming back to what Christian said, the more information and the easier the possibilities, the more cases we will become. I object to this because I think the better the information is, and maybe we can also consider online mediation or something, we also can reduce the caseload. And I think if we can finish a dispute without the court, it's better than finishing with the court. And I'm not so afraid that, that this will bring up too much cases to justice. If we consider instruments of, how you call it nowadays, legal tech, this could be rather helpful. And I could think we should consider this, that this could be a way to enhance a European e-justice portal. And the second thing, it's from what you mentioned, Kai, that we need specific information for judges, also for users on the cases, for judges or prosecutors on cases in other countries and so on. And if we consider this, I think we would need a right and role concept in the e-justice portal that only persons who have the right can access some data. Of course, there's the general data, the support of all users and also legal professionals on information on other. But on the other hand, we have specific data in cases where only persons who are allowed have access, and there we need the right and roles concept.
You came back to the artificial intelligence, hence I think now I can take the question from the workshop. So can AI replace the judges in simple court cases? I know that we can elaborate it for a very long time, but we have a lot of topics, so really please 1-2 sentences.
No, I don't think.
Oh,
but I think this can support very much. As you have to explore things, you may have to make the discovery, which is explore the legal background and to make a discovery in the facts. There, artificial intelligence can help a lot. So you shift the work from the judge and also of the lawyer from, let's say, the more or less mechanical preparation work to the real decision. So it can help, but I think the final decision will stay with the judge.
I think Christian wanted to comment, and then Alain.
Just before your question, 2 things. First, we are actually planning to launch a new version of the e-justice portal, because e-justice portal was launched in 2011, and over the last 6-7 years it evolved. So going from like 0 hits to 3.5 million meant growing and growing and growing in terms of information and in terms of adding actually the interactive part, where you have the dynamic forms, where you have the small claims, where you have the search in the business registers, or we will have soon the search in the land registers. So this is something that we have in the pipeline. It will be released by the end of the year to be tested.
End of 2017.
Exactly, to be tested, and then over the next year to do the final, let's say, tweaks and to the new version of the portal. Regarding the example that I gave, actually, I think we are in perfect agreement, because, you know, what is happening now, or what I have described, it was the automation scanning of a paper process. So somebody gives me the template, I fill it in, I submit it to the court, and the court has to actually take the data from that form, put it into a system and process it. But I think with the new generation of the e-justice system, actually the court can propose a form directly into which this traffic fine is going to be contested like that. You single sign on, you have all your data uploaded, you have also your traffic fine that is attached to the file, and you just click 3 boxes. I was there, I was not there, just use e-evidence and go to a GPS provider to show that actually I was 2,000 kilometers away from where I was. So this is a kind of automation that is to be achieved with a new generation of e-justice system that actually involves a new way of thinking about them and also of processing e-evidence, because the point of the e-evidence word has been mentioned a few times. But this is not only about moving evidence from one part to the other, but actually having access to digital evidence that is now all over the place. With e-evidence, for instance, you probably can solve a hit-and-run case of a car case within hours. Today, this information exists to all the telephony providers, GPS provider, and so on, without naming names. Everybody knows where I am in this moment.
Alain? your point?
So regarding the question on replacing a judge by a computer, I agree with Martin. I don't think it will be actually the case, but if you look at the process for a legal analysis, first of all, you have the factual assessment. What are the facts? Then you have the analysis vis-à-vis the law and the case law. You put the facts in this
Context.
analysis, and then you have the judgment, and then you need a human being to evaluate if the result is complete madness or if it makes sense. You need some common sense and comments. So what is the most important when you recruit a lawyer is a capacity to make the factual assessment in a very exhaustive manner and straight to the point, to limit the scope of possibilities and to have the very facts, and to have common sense. Because in the middle, you just apply the law and the case law. And it doesn't require any intelligence in itself. You just need to have the courage and to take the time to look for the information in the law and in the case law. That part can be quite easily automated by artificial intelligence, especially if we include metadata in ECLI and ELI, and all this information is much more accessible than going to the library and looking for the case law manually. Then for the factual assessment, in the beginning, you have already automated system for document review when you have a huge amount of paper and document to be reviewed. But in the meantime, you very often need the human assistant through an expert. So the expert will be core too in order to limit the scope of possibilities and to say, this is the element, this is the relevant element you need to take into consideration before making your legal assessment. And you need to be very strict in the order. But at the end, you still need a judge to say, okay, does it make sense? Is it fair? Is it implementable as a decision? Then regarding all that process where artificial intelligence applies, if I can also rebound on what Kai said in the beginning, moving from thinking paper to thinking digital. Then we have another challenge that I think we need to address, which is that so far in a lot of administration, so not speaking of e-justice for the moment, the tendency has been to build IT solution on paper workflow. And when we say paper workflow now in the world of justice, it means codes of procedure which has been modernized, but which has been imagined in the 19th century for most of them. So it's a paper process with a lot of gray zone, and the gray zone in question will disappear in an IT system, because it's yes or no. It's this before or this after. It's not, it depends. So if you organize it that way, very often the user, as we said, user-friendly, and Kai is perfectly right to say, but which user? The professional, the citizen, the judge, the legal officer, which user? Then the legal officer and the judge, very often they are not happy at all, because it's very rigid and it takes more time to use the system than to use it manually when you don't really pay attention, because it doesn't really matter if you do this before that. So very often it doesn't work properly. Then we need to have a strategy. We need to have a strategy that each time we change the law, each time there is a new procedure which is put in place, to think digit. And it's why a hackathon, like what you have organized, to have the IT guys speaking with the lawyers is extremely important, because both need to know what you want to do, how do you do it as a lawyer, and what are the possibilities in terms of IT solutions. And how fast the possibilities will evolve in such a way that I am not blocked for future evolution. But that's very difficult, to speak to each other and to move together. As you know, to change a code of procedure is a very long process in a lot of member states. And at EU level, it touches upon the autonomy of judicial procedures in the member state. But that's a real challenge that needs to be addressed, I think, in e-justice, because, well, the particularity of e-justice is also that it is on a voluntary basis. It's more in the e-justice working party at the council. Those are the member states speaking to each other. It's not that the member states are imposed to change anything, but they discuss together, they learn from the experience of the other, and that they are able then to identify what are the blocking points in the respective countries, where do I need to change something in order to move faster in terms of equipment, and what kind of IT equipment, of IT tool can we imagine that goes beyond those difficulties, like eCodex, for instance, which is flexible enough to offer IT solutions without being obliged to change drastically the procedures and the IT equipment in the different member states. So this flexibility, taking into account the different users, but at one moment, we need to address the issue of the paper form conceived system in the judicial systems and their compatibility with IT solution. At one moment, that will need to be addressed.
Taking it a bit forward from the AI perspective and trying to look for the half-term goals, actually there's a good question from the workshop once again. What kind of project on AI could be foreseen for the next e-justice plan? So again, a concrete question that if we think of AI, I know you already mentioned some of them are in place. So what AI project could be part of the e-justice strategy or plan? If you have some concrete ideas, shortly, please. Yes?
I don't think it would be the right approach to start an AI project as an AI project, but we have lots of projects in our pipeline. You mentioned it, we are working on this. And in all of these, we could consider the use of AI. Okay. That's the approach I would take and we should keep this in mind doing our project, and that would be my approach.
Okay, thank you very much. Kai, yes, please.
Well, I quite agree, and even more broader, I think artificial intelligence is one part of the technology. But I think our solution should be technology neutral in the sense that the technology is developing so quickly that if we start a project right now, we really don't know what will be available within 2 or 3 years. And the solution still need to work in the future with different technological possibility. So I think, yes, we should first think what we need. What is the problem and what is the solution, and if there are different technological possibilities to solve this problem, then yeah.
So in a nutshell, AI is a tool, not a goal in itself. I promise to also turn to the audience to think big for the future with e-justice, because I actually see this panel, the idea gathering of this panel and from the audience as a possibility to get input into the new e-justice plan from 2019 to 23. So this really is something, or the time, to put forward the ideas among which we can later on choose to maybe really take them out of the walls of this conference room and propose them as concrete actions to the new e-justice plan. But please, anyone from the audience wishing to make their sort of pitch, the real pitchers are waiting. Yes, please. We have a microphone as well. Can you also please introduce yourself so everyone knows? Thank you.
Hello, I'm Eva Putter from the Estonian Chamber of Notaries, and I am very fond of the Justice Portal, using it a lot in practice, and I'm recommending it to everybody. The idea on having new topics in the Justice Portal, I completely support it, and I have a specific proposal. There should be a section on family law in the Justice Portal. In January 2019, we have 2 very important regulations entering into force. One on the matrimonial property relationships of the spouses, and one on the registered partnerships, the property relations of the registered partners. And e-Justice Portal could have a section dedicated to those issues, because there is no doubt that the regulations are affecting a large number of population of the European Union, as they affect situations where couples are connected with more than one country because of the nationality, residence, or the ownership of property in different countries. So even though those regulations are adopted within the enhanced cooperation, which means that not all the member states are applying them, they would still have effect on couples who would have connections with states applying the regulations and with states not applying them. But not only those, also other family law regulations like Rome Free and the applicable law of divorce. I would also recommend to adapt a little bit the part on the business registers side, not because of the registries, but because of the substantive law of the member states. In practice, when companies are moving from one country to another, wishing to be engaged in business activities, there are two things that they always have to prove: that they're legally capable and who is their legal representative. The national laws of the member states are very different. There are states where the legal representation is legally valid if it's registered in the registry. To that end, the eJustice portal is perfect to find out, yes, I know in that country, like in Estonia, I will rely only on the information from the registry. But there are other member states where the right of representation must be established based on the documents of the company, such as articles of association, etc. And for the legal professional, there is no source of information to find out. In Cyprus, the company from Cyprus, what documents should I ask? It takes me like so much time, which means that the companies cannot be engaged in their activities as fast as they would wish for. And the third point I would like to make is that the updates in the eJustice portal should be done more efficiently and quicker way in order to ensure the smooth application of the European Union law. A good example is the European Succession Regulation. It was leaving aside the how technically the dynamic forms of the eJustice portal should be redesigned or etc. is the question of the speediness. The Succession Regulation was adopted in 2012. The forms to be issued by the authorities of the member states were adopted in 2014. Today, we are in 2017 October, and the forms available in the eJustice portal are in the Word format, which means that in practice, it's impossible to fill them in. For the nationals, it's impossible to use them because somehow they have to ensure that they are translated into another language where the documents are used. And I know for a fact that European succession certificates have been issued in a very large number throughout the European Union. So please do it faster. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Very good and concrete points. I'm not letting you comment straight away. I will first give the floor, if there are any others, just a moment. There are. To all the ideas, well, we can take a couple of them, just because, again, we are short on time, and then I will ask everyone to comment on one or two, the ones that you deem the most important, because we unfortunately don't have the time to cover everything. Yes, please, an idea?
Very quickly, Giulio Borsari from Italian Ministry of Justice. Italy has the privilege to coordinate an expert group regarding judicial auctions. We have proposed and willing to go forward on a second phase after the static and information pages on the Justice portal are very important, and thanks to the collaboration of many member states, now the pages give very throughout information on what is a judicial auction, what is the glossary, and point out to the single member states national pages. But we think that it's very important to build a European one-stop shop, sort of marketplace with synthetic information from judicial auctions in the member states in order to boost the sales of assets of all the proceedings, enforcement proceedings, as some member states have already done. I know about Austria and about 10 member states, and also Italy has begun with a national portal providing a search engine with the relevant information. And we will propose in the next meeting in November a technical way to do this, both automatic and also manually, to implement those basic information, and then to link to national websites where the creditor, well, someone that wants to buy an asset can find all the detailed pages and detailed information, and maybe he or she wants to have them translated in their own language. So we think it's very important to boost that issue and to find really a one-stop shop on the Justice portal to search for assets like those. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? I have many hands, but yes, I saw the gentleman there who actually, yes, please.
Okay. My name is Willem Waslander from Ministry of Justice from the Netherlands. Actually, I have a question. If I look to my phone and look to the way my children behave, they all use apps. Why don't we have apps in the portal? We do have what we call dynamic forms, and I think one of the conclusions yesterday was, for instance, with the European payment order, that you have to fill out a lot of forms, print them out and send them. How is it possible in this period of digitization that we don't use apps in the portal?
Okay, another idea, develop an e-Justice portal app. Please, Mr. at the back, if anyone can give him the microphone. We'll reach you in seconds.
Hello, my name is Mark van der Pijnen. I'm from the Netherlands. For the last 2 years, I have been the project coordinator of building on the European case law identifier. ECLI was also mentioned by Mr. Pilet already. For those of you who do not know, ECLI is a way to univocally identify court decisions from all over Europe. And currently in the ECLI search engine, which is part of the European e-Justice portal, there are about 6 million national decisions already to be found. One of the interesting questions is, of course, is how can you get access to the information which is contained in all those court decisions? This cannot be solved by a simple search engine as it's currently there, because if you are looking for the national decisions which are about, by example, the interpretation of the European Services Directive, you will be looking for hours. One of the things we have been doing in our project is, let's call it an artificial intelligence project, where we are able to detect, to develop software with which you can detect that case is actually about a specific European directive or about a specific national act, or is building on and citing national or European case law. So instead of looking for hours for case law about the European Services Directive, this can be done effectively within seconds. The only issue is that this software has to be adapted to national languages and jurisdictions. But thanks to the software framework we developed, this can be done at the national level quite quickly. Also, we need more translations, or at least summarized translations, because in the Netherlands we are still not able to understand, for example, an Estonian judgment. So translations which are maybe already available in other websites should also be available on the European e-Justice portal in the ECLI search engine, made available by others, and maybe also more experiment with with machine translation. One of the questions I think for the also for the upcoming European Action Plan is, who is going to take the lead here? The member states, because, for example, they have to implement this software, but because these software, the data are already available as open data, also the Commission or European projects could play a significant role to speeden up the process. because having this information, you can have network relations between all those different sources, and this is a basic material for all further artificial intelligence and data science applications. So there is really a gold mine of data possibly already available on the eJustice portal, specifically the ECLI search engine. They just have to be mined. And I think that developing this mining and really using the data should be one of the focal points of the European Action Plan. The same goes also for information that is contained in those thousands of other pages which are currently published on the eJustice portal. You can search it by the common search engine, but by using additional analysis, network analysis, we could extend the usability of all those data.
Thank you very much. There was, I think, one more hand. Please, your idea, try to keep it short. Microphone you have. Great.
Thank you. I'm Jean-Marc Pellet of the Hague Conference on Private International Law. We've been around for a really long time. Might be the oldest international organization in the world. We have 83 members, so that's about 50% of countries. We do have a number of conventions. One of them is a 2007 convention on the international recovery of child support. And we have, I would say, about 30 signatories, 31. Honduras actually exceeded this week to this convention, so we have 31 parties to this convention, so a growing number of parties. And to service this convention and also the 2009 regulation on maintenance obligations, we created a system called iSupport. It's a complete case management system. And I'm coming to the point here. We use eCodex. So first point I can make is that eCodex is indeed very important for us. It's important that appropriate provisions are made for its maintenance, because the world is watching. We have 2 countries which are using our system in a production capacity now. They're Portugal, but also the state of California outside of the European Union. So we are very much one of your feet outside of the European Union, potentially also soon on other continents as well, with Brazil poised to join very soon. So I think that's a strong incentive for the maintenance of eCodex in terms of visibility of European technology. And the other thing that's related to the use of eCodex is potentially the number of partners that we have. I mentioned our members. Also, if you look at potentially about 50 members of iSupport, this would mean potentially 1 million child support cases that could be exchanged through our system. So you see a considerable number of cases. And the issue here is that eCodex, from its design, it's a bilateral system in the sense that countries do connect with each other, and they do have to do a number of tests together. So if you have one or 2 countries, it's fine, but if you do increase the number of countries, then this multiplies the number of tests that you have to do. So for us, having the capacity to exchange through what could be called a broker, some sort of central facility that would be routing the messages, would be quite handy for us. And we are aware of the initiatives at the European level that have been taken in terms of BRIS, Business Registers Interconnection System. For us, there are things that we would need in terms of the confidentiality of the data, or rather the absence of a lookup facility of this data on this particular platform, and also in terms of storage as well, that it be that there be no storage on this platform is also important for us. And also I mentioned the aspect of connecting third countries also very important. So to us, if this could be an aspect of reflection for e-justice as well, this would be something we would be very interested in addition to, of course, the maintenance of e-codex. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Then there were 5 ideas. Should I brief them, or each one of you has already their favorites? Yes, Kai, please.
Well, I picked up the secondary use of the existing data already, especially with the analysis of judgments. And I think the whole idea of secondary use of already existing data and maybe combining it with new technology, especially with machine translation, it opens quite a new dimension for the whole portal, I think.
Great. Anyone else? Did you get any of your favorites? Yes, please.
First of all, I'd like to say something about the artificial intelligence, because I didn't say anything. Concerning the artificial intelligence, I think that judge could not be replaced by machine, but the use of e-codex could facilitate the process. So, concerning the e-communications, the service of documents, the taking of evidence, anything could help the judge to solve the case. But in order to think concerning these new artificial intelligence projects, which could be presented maybe in the future, I think that it should be very well considered when and what they could include. Because we know from the history, the Roman judge said, tell me the facts and I will give you the law. So the man could not be replaced by the machine. And concerning the suggestion of the Estonian colleague that some points of the family law could be better developed in the e-justice portal, for instance, something concerning the Rome 3 regulation, or other instruments in family law, I think it is, from the family law perspective, it is very important to have these instruments in the European e-justice portal, because as far as we know, the family law is really, really one of the most important parts of the law, which concerns bigger part of the European citizens. So it is so important to have this included in the European e-justice portal.
Very good.
This is my opinion.
Anyone else? Not for the... Yes, please.
I have special considerations on this topic because we have a lot of rather mature projects already. Some of them are already operational. And we should be very careful to broaden our projects too much. I'm not sure if I'm right, I have 16 or 17 expert groups, which is a lot, and no country has a possibility to work on all these experts groups. So we should have some priorities. Maybe we bring some of the ideas, we can bring some ideas together so that we can handle this in one stream. And I think it's also important that we work on the existing projects and bring them, broaden them in the sense that we get more member states including in this pilot. We have pilots which are already operational, but there's only, let's say, 4 or 5 countries working on these pilots, and it's essential that we get more countries in this, so that we can advance with the whole thing. To get more countries means to make them more attractive, and also means to give security to the member states to join these. At the moment stage, we have some insecurities. The insecurities means that, okay, we have the eCodex, which is a transportation layer for more or less all projects, but the sustainability of eCodex is still lacking. So this should be solved. It means that we get eCodex to the EU-LISA agency, that we have a continuous maintenance. And for this we need the regulation, the mandate for EU-LISA, but we also need to get some legal security. We need a codex regulation, and maybe we also need an e-justice regulation or recommendation in general, where we say more or less digital justice, digital first, and ones only, and also things which are already mentioned in this conference. And if we have this stability, we have the possibilities, or it's easier for the member states to join the project and to get them broadened, and so we can continue. And if we have finished this project, that means everyone is working with this project, then we can again broaden up. So we should be a little cautious in broaden too large.
Thank you. It was actually the point that I was going to make now, that definitely we have, as we can see, a lot of ideas. Now the next step, I believe, is first and foremost to choose where is the balance, and actually it was one of the questions from the workshop also at one point, where is the balance to broaden the scope and with the balance of getting new ideas. But having heard of what was said from the audience, actually I would say that even before we do that is to maintain the quality of the existing, for example, the e-Justice portal, because if we hear that what is there and it is up to date for, not up to date for 2 or 3 years, and actually we are not even maybe in measures in some ways to talk about a very effective tool in every sense. If it's out of date constantly, yes, it has all these features, but actually in reality, in practice, they cannot be used. So actually for me, there was even a third fold added, broaden scope, new initiatives, and keeping the existing ones actually usable. But you also mentioned upon the e-Codex regulation that actually probably addresses more or less one other question that I wanted to ask, but we won't have time to elaborate it too long, is how to exit the piloting phase of the e-Justice. This pretty much comes down to the sustainability, and e-Codex regulation with a mandate to the EU LISA might be one option. Does anyone have something else to add in terms of the balance between new projects broadening the scope, either member state-wise and keeping the existing information systems actually really effective and up-to-date? Yes, please, from the Commission.
First of all, about the e-Justice portal. As I said, e-Justice portal was launched in 2011 with the technology of 2011. It grew up very fast, and we added things that technologically were available there. Now, regarding the use of the portal on the mobile devices, actually, at the level of the Commission, we took a strategic choice. And the strategic choice is to actually use a responsive website instead of apps. My phone was updated 5 times in the last 2 weeks. That would mean for a portal the size of e-Justice to have one dedicated team of maybe 50 people doing all these updates times 3 platforms, because at least we have to cover 3 of the main platforms for that. So this is why we are using a responsive website. What it pertains to the form, indeed, we are using a technology that is not mobile friendly, but that technology we have actually to rethink it, not to replace it with another technology that is mobile friendly, but to another way of doing it. So with a single sign-on, with single data use, so basically that form should come on your mobile devices pre-filled based on your authentication layer. Now, coming back to the new strategy, the new e-Justice strategy, I would say, and this is where I can speak more Commission, I would reiterate what my Commissioner, Mrs. Jourova, said in the opening. We have first to evaluate what was done so far. Then we have to be very inclusive in what we are actually consulting and proposing for what is next. And then we have to have focus. Because I would say we have to make the difference between a project or a system that already starts with the uptake of 20 member states and a small pilot that we can finance it as such, that can be a proof of concept, and that if successful, then it can be adopted by 20 member states. So I would say we have the possibility to start big, but we also should have the possibility to start small or very small and upscale to big in case the proof of concept is there.
Thank you very much. Cannot agree with you more. Anyone want to comment on the Commission viewpoint? Okay, a very concrete question from the workshop. To accelerate court proceedings, is there a place for speech-to-text integration with legacy court management systems? Now, maybe the engineer from the Commission side.
Well, not that I know of so far. We don't really have speech-to-text translators that will do translation in real time. We have only machine translation for text. And this is integrated in the portal. So if anything, the portal is actually available in 23 languages. And we have integrated the machine translation in the portal. I hope this answers the question.
I do hope as well. Another one, do you think that drafting two documents, the action plan and the strategy on e-justice for the same period of time has an added value? It has a long ending, but we try to keep for the first part of the question. Kai, please.
Well, it all depends how do you write those documents, because one is more general and guidelines, and the other one is quite focused and concrete, or at least it should be. So I think we can here do a good job and really keep that in mind when we do our job.
For me, for example, at first sight, to try to combine it with a panel, I would say that strategy is for the big goals, the next big thing, while the action plan are the so-called half-term goals that actually are more like measures. So in fact, one builds on top of the other or vice versa. You have the goal where you want to reach, and then you have the measures or the actions to take. So I cannot agree with Miro. It really depends how you put it together.
They have to put it together because one of them shows the objectives and the other one is the concrete measures. And concerning the balance between the old projects and the new ones, I think I support what Martin said. Actually, we have 16 or 17 projects in our working groups in the e-justice area. So it is very important to consider well, for instance, what we should do for the future. The e-Codex project is one of the most important things that is achieved in the e-justice area. It should be maintained and developed further, but actually it should be under very well consideration what actually should be put on in the agenda for the next period.
I actually. Please.
Sorry. I think both are living documents. Of course, the strategy has a longer period focus and action plans, that's clear. But I think these times mentioned are already the times when we say, okay, after some years we're going to reconsider action plan and strategy. And of course, action plan builds on strategy.
Okay, if I have always tried to pinpoint in conclusion some smaller focus points, then for this panel, for the bigger goals, actually I stated them in the half-term conclusion, the AI, not as an objective in itself, but a mean to receive bigger objectives, the user focus of the solutions, and better and faster access to information and justice and change of the mindset. Then I have to say that for the midterm or half-term goals or measures, the picture is not messy, but there are so many ideas that actually probably it definitely goes out of my responsibility or possibility to say what are the most important ones. But I believe that all of them, the user focusedness, the awareness building, the insurance of the current existing systems quality is definitely a must. The family law point made out. What else? Efficient amending the business register side and case information by person, they all seem equally important for the next action plan to be put into. So I really believe these are the inputs that I hope can be taken from this panel to the discussion into the next action plan. I also think that actually we got quite many ideas from this panel to make a new hackathon. So we saw a lot of problematics, so the hackathon people are there. Probably they are already crunching their brain to find the solutions.
No. no objection to what you said, of course
Yes.
not. But I think I feel obliged to say many thanks to the Estonian presidency for this very interesting, informative, and well-organized conference, and for the hospitality at all. And I would like to take the possibility to invite everyone here to the Austrian e-Justice conference, which will take place in the next year from the 4th to the 6th of December in Vienna. We'll try to focus on digital justice, national and cross-border, with European view, of course. And we'll try to say, okay, we focus on electronic communication, electronic documents, electronic courtroom, electronic working place or digital working place of the judge, of course with the inclusion of legal tech and artificial intelligence. That will be basically our focus.
Thank you really very much. You have a last say? Please do. Please do.
I would like to take the opportunity after that Martin said to invite everyone in the conference in Sofia. It will be held on the 14th of May. And the topic is e-justice. Among the concrete topics of the conference are e-evidence, strategy and action plan, and something else.
Action plan is we're all big here. So once again, thank you very much for the still, our time is up, but please, please.
Well,
of course.
First of all, I don't want to miss the opportunity to congratulate the Estonian presidency on this conference. It was not only flawless, but actually it confirmed something very important for the e-justice. I thought about to say something like pretentious that there is a nexus of forces right here, right now, because you said that the future starts now. Well, I would say there's nowhere else I'd rather be. Why? Because the e-justice, the new strategy, has a big impetus, a big wind in its sails. It's got political commitment, the Tallinn Declaration, which I think it's a very strong basis. We have legal basis, we have eIDAS, we have the European interoperability framework, we have the e-government initiative, we have the single digital gateway initiative, so we have all these legal acts either approved or in the making that will actually push forward the e-justice. And lastly, but not at the least, we have the technology. We have e-codex, we have e-signature, we have eID, we have data mining, these forms of artificial intelligence that are available, and we can actually use them for the new e-justice in any shape or form.
3 of the panelists have had a final word. Please, I feel obliged, Alain or Kai, do you feel to, no, not an obligation, but if you wish to have a final sum up?
Well, yeah, thank you. Well, first of all, to congratulate and to thank you for that conference, and to pay tribute to the trio of presidencies for working together so astutely and hardly to building the future of e-justice. It has been demonstrated today, and in the context of the preparation of that conference and the 2 conferences that will be organized by the Bulgarian and the Austrian presidency. So I think that the good interaction and working together among the different actors is core in e-justice. It's really a domain where the member states have to work together, to think together, to interact with the Commission, and to have a very good communication and trust between each other. And well, we have seen a lot of projects come from the member state themselves, having developed those important tools. Others come from the Commission and are then used by the member state. And as Martin has said, sometimes there is a few number of member states participating, but then the leading member state demonstrate how useful and how trustful is the project, and more member states participate. So it is all that dynamic and interaction between the different stakeholders which is absolutely essential, and a conference like today contribute to that very strongly. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you, Kai. You had the honor to speak first, and you have the honor to close this panel as well.
Yes, thank you. Well, when we started to organize this conference, there was an internal motto for us. It's from a Canadian fiction novelist William Gibson. And it says that the future is already here. It doesn't start here, it's already here. And it's just not evenly distributed. So I really hope that we had a chance to inject this change of mentality or Estonian mentality on digital thinking to all these who participated, not only this conference, but I think all the other conferences also. So I'm very glad that you liked here, and come again. Thank you.
Thank you for the panelists. The conference is not over. You are unleashed from the hook. I'm very glad that now is a time when we can see the pitches. You're duly ready at the back of the hall. We are excited. I hope you are as well. As promised at the beginning of the day, I will first, very briefly, but still hopefully in a concrete manner, explain how you will be able to vote for your favorite team. To do that, you have to use the WorksUp application. Under the topic, results of the hackathon, and in the upper right corner, under the results topic of the hackathon, you have the tasks tab. Clicking on the tasks tab gives you the list of the teams. You have the possibility to add a comment why you particularly voted for this or that team. It's a voluntary basis, no, not compulsory. You also can vote several times. Your last vote will count. We will open the voting straight away, so why the teams pitch, you have the possibility to change the vote when you think that the next one was actually more dear to your heart than the previous one. How the pitching will exactly be carried out, well, this is the expertise field of Elisa. Elisa, please join me.
Hi, Kathleen.
Stella says.
Hello everybody. So, the teams who actually started to solve the problems yesterday, it's about 27 hours ago. They're already ready to show the solutions and tell you how these will impact the future users in specific problem areas. They already had their, let's call it, one test round for the pitching in another hall as well. So they're very eager to show themselves in here. Like Kathleen already told you, I would also like to encourage you to vote for the favorite of the audience. You can do it all the time. If the last one is your favorite, you can also change your vote at the end. I assure you all of them will be very interesting for you. And the teams, as I've also said during the live broadcast, they have gone through different levels of gathering information, discussing what should be the solution. What I can tell you is that usually what happens is that first they write down tons of different ideas and then they delete most of them. Because when you first test your product, only core elements are the ones that are very, very important. And, without further ado, I would like to call the first team to the stage. Draft Hub, please come closer to the stage and get yourself ready. And as at the startup world as well, we want to motivate the people coming to the stage. Please help me to do that. Give a big hand to Draft Hub.
As always, it's the IT world, so we'll just wait for the slides. sinu arvuti võeti ära ja ta paneb tagasi selle, mis seal enne oli. Ma ei tea. Come on, see on visuaalne lahendus.
Kas seda WhatsAppi ei saa nii kaua rääkida? On, me tõstame ümber. Aga räägi WhatsAppist nii kaua.
The technology took the better half of us for the time being. So while they're resolving the issues, they will put the slides of the pictures on a different computer. Yes, the pictures could make the pitch without the slides as well, but since they want to partly emphasize on the visual side, and since, well, they do have 3 minutes, so it will be intense, and hopefully the slides will help them better get the idea, as far as I understand. In the meantime, we are already thinking of plan B as well. If it will not work, then going with the flow, and they will have to bear without the slides, I'm afraid, if it will not work out. Well, this is usually known that everything works until it's put into live environment. So we are the live environment today. We will look into the solutions and then we will decide. Okay. Yeah, we will try to put the slides on the main computer at the back at the tech. So the slides are coming. Please show where to put the slides to the mister with a USB stick. Yeah, he's at the tech stand already, putting the slides. Hopefully it will work from there. Okay, I can see the slides on this screen, meaning that probably very soon we will see them on the big one as well. And if yes, then I will give the floor back to you. Don't worry, we won't count this off your 3 minutes. So what do the tech people think? Do we have, oh, yes, yes, yes. I believe this is what we need. Okay. Voila, it only took a bit less than 3 minutes.
So, Peter, the Slackbot, you go, and we will figure out in the background what keeps us from using Macs and other software that should work as well. I guess there is a bad bot coming here. So, Peter, the Slackbot team. Good. Yes. You're looking for the speaker, right? So first we go without slides, then we go without the speaker who should present. I guess the nervousness is so high that she ran outside to get some calming information for herself. So, we have, if you say that that only the PowerPoints work, then give me back the USB stick. I can give you a different PowerPoint maybe before the speaker comes back. The legal presentation is also PowerPoint presentation. Is legal speaker here? Yes, good. So just in case, get yourself ready. Kai, can you get me a USB stick? And then we'll figure that out so we can get the information over there. USB stick? Yeah, okay. So we'll do that. That's something changing different rooms. Now, so that's another PowerPoint.
Kuidas see speaker ära kaob? Kus see speaker on? Ma ei saa aru, kuidas see ära kaob. Sellist inimesed peab alati enda juures hoidma õigel hetkel. Okay, now we have the speaker. On või? On. Yes! Peter! Anna talle mikker.
The microphone is waiting for you.
Yeah, sorry about that.
3 minutes. So countdowning 3 minutes.
Hi, my name is Otsamar, and I'm with the team Peter the Lobot. Now, this is...
They would change from the background. The slides. Siit ei lähe from the background.
And it's not working. This is Maria. Picture this. This is Maria. She's 26 years old. She's from Cyprus. She's married to Nicola from Hungary, and they have one child. For the past 10 years, they have been living in Czech Republic. And at one point, the relationship turned violent. And now, Maria decided to travel back home to Cyprus with her child. Now, what Maria wants to do now is that she wants to take care or get the full custody of her child, but she has to do it in Czech Republic. So, how would Maria deal with this issue today? The real answer is that she cannot, or she doesn't have any good, quick access to online, or let's say quick access to legal information or justice. That is why we are building Peter the Lawbot. Peter will help Maria to get relevant information about the local authorities and lawyers in Czech Republic. So, how does Peter work? First, Peter asks a couple of questions, personal questions about yourself, details about yourself. Then, Peter will ask more specific questions about the problem, and finally, you will see a specific authority or lawyer who can help to solve this problem, in this case, child custody. So, our target group today are families in EU who want and who need quick legal, who need quick access to legal information and justice. Yes, the competition today is tough, but with the expertise and experience of our team, we can solve these problems. Now, our team has a profound experience in legal, field, tech, and startups. So you already should be convinced that we're capable of doing it. What I'm asking from you is that work with us, cooperate with us so that Peter can enter into your country as well. My name is Otsamar. I'm with the Peter the Lobot, and I thank you.
Awesome. So we know now that only PowerPoint is the thing that works here, but I know that you have been asking questions through the workshop previously. Let's see how you can do with the questions directly to Ottomar and about the project that he built. So please, questions from the audience. We have 2 ladies with microphones. Where are they? Come closer. Yeah, you show your hands. And if you want to ask a question, please give a hand notice. Were you convinced that this is needed? There is a question over there from the gentleman. Please run quickly. Yeah, with the crazy suit.
Yes, thank you. I want to ask you, what is the added value of this app compared to the e-Justice portal?
Pardon me, I didn't catch the last one.
What is the added value of Peter if you compare it with the information that is accessible on the e-Justice portal?
Perfect. The thing is that this information is gathered today. Yes, e-Justice portal gives you some details and information about where you can get help. But the problem is that people like Maria have no clue how to approach this kind of portal. So what we are trying to do here is that we are trying to shorten the distance between Maria and the help that is needed.
Yes, the team member can answer as well.
And since I work a bit more with these issues, everything is not on e-Justice portal. You don't have information about child protection authorities, family mediators. Yes, you do have the beginning of the court database, but there are a lot of domestic authorities. And also, if you have a look at the slides, what was the last one? Do you want to get a paid lawyer, what you can find on e-Justice? Do you want to find a way to ask for state legal aid, or do you want to find a pro bono office? This is what Peter helps. It helps to concentrate all the information which is out there on different websites to one place which is accessible and easy to use for a citizen off the streets.
Good. Are there more questions? Yes, one more from the gentleman. You have the microphone.
It's a twofold question. The problem Maria is facing is hopefully for her, it's a once-in-a-lifetime problem. So my question is, how is she going to find at that time this app? And the second question is, probably Maria has a question. She cannot ask the question, but instead she has to answer the questions of the app. And how can you be sure that her actual problem will be answered by the app? And why is there not a possibility for her to ask the question instead of having the questions asked to her by the app?
First off, the question about how Maria will find this app. This is why we need you guys. We need every single country, let's say governmental field or level to work with us together. Because in the first stage, we want this solution to be free and accessible for every single person in the EU. The second step would be to onboard like separate lawyers and law firms into the system as well. And that's, this is basically the part where we can actually generate money out of this project. But I hope this covers the question. So marketing from every single country that is able to implement this solution. And second of all, how does the mechanical part or side of this project works is that, yes, I'd be delighted to see that if Maria can ask questions and the bot would give legal advice. But this is a risky topic. Yes, in the future we can focus on this point as well, but in the beginning we would still look for possibilities to connect people, to make the road to the help much more shorter, even if it's cross-border.
Do we have more questions? Yeah, the question from there. Also the team, come closer to the stage already. The whole team of Peter the Slackbot.
Actually, I have a question, how the Peter the Bot will sustain financially. How this project will be funded. And I mean, the Peter the Bot will need money to sustain, right? And how you envision to achieve this sustainability.
My first guess would be EU funding. But
thank you. Let's give a big applause to the whole team. Give them some goodie bags to the stage. This is the whole team of Peter the Slackbot who has been trying to solve the problem of people finding information about family issues all over the European Union. And this was the solution that they came up with just about 24 hours. So let's give them a very, very big applause again. Yes, smile to the cameraman. Smile to the cameraman. We take an archive photo so that in the future, when they make their things happen, we would know where they started from.
Perfect.
Thank you. So let's see the next team. Based on that, whose slide will show up? That is Draft Hub, who will come to finally to the stage after waiting. That's, like he said, the trick of being the first one. So now let's see what they have to show. And let's have the same thing on the stage screen as well. Okay, go.
Hi, my name is Anders, and today I want to talk about Draft Hub. We're a group of legal specialists, designers, IT people, and business people who came up with an idea for a virtual workplace for legislation drafting. So, the problem that we had, me personally, I was involved in amending the new procurement law in Estonia a few months ago. So, what it meant was I was juggling tens and tens of different documents, tens of revision, tens of versions, tens of files that need to be synchronized, put back together into one main version, had to be approved by interest groups, etc., etc. So many problems with the process, so many man-hours wasted, and I'm using the word wasted, on editing documents and files. So, what I thought of, I put together a team, and we came up with a solution, which is Draft Hub. So, what we created is a vision for a virtual workplace or a work environment where everybody involved in legislation drafting and approval can work together in public groups, private groups. You always have the same main version in front of you, which you are commenting, making suggestions, making amendments as an interest group, for example. For the author, they're able to decide which kind of additions, amendments, or comments are they going to implement in the law. If they decline, why, what was the reason, so etc. We want to provide this functionality to everybody in one common place. The benefits that we see from the solution, first of all, effectiveness. Effectiveness from the time saved on juggling with the enormous amount of files, enormous amount of versions, countless lines of track change, which is a nightmare. I am sure that you will agree with me. And we are able to optimize that in this one virtual workspace where you see the original version, you see the revisions, you see the suggestions and comments. Other part is transparency. Right now, information goes through emails and goes inside documents in different document versions. What we want to have is actually a transparent view of the process. Where's the legal draft at? Which status? Who has made their public comments or notes on that? Or amendments to the law? What has been agreed on? What has been declined and why? And we want to have that as a history. So when the final legal act is out there, everybody is able to easily see how it came to be from a single draft, a blank page pretty much, into final legislation. The target markets, simple, the world. We don't say that you have to have specific predefined workflows, how you approve your laws, who are the bodies that have to approve it, who have to consult it, etc., etc. You can configure that. You can set your own groups. You can say who is able to do what, who is able to comment, who is able to decide, who has to provide explanation to different activities. And it's also about numbers. I made a small calculation together with the team. I have a very good statistician, so we created some data, and then we saw that this exact number, 1,175,000 euros, is the potential that we have in Estonia to save every year on the manual labor that today goes into juggling with these Word files that I mentioned before. If we take it to a higher level, let's say Europe, you come up with a number 240 million euros every year potentially saved because of a simple combination of what is done in separate files into a virtual workspace. I thank you for your attention. Allow us to save you time, and you're welcome to contact me.
Thank you. Yes, he definitely needs or deserves a very good applause. Yes, questions, yeah. Have a microphone and...
Apologies for taking the floor again. Have you, you're juggling with Word files. Have you, in doing research on this application, found the OASIS standard, legal docML, which is actually an XML standard for legislative documents, where also already applications are available. By example, the LIOS application, which is open source software, which is partly developed within the European Union, and the Lime editor that can be used by legislative drafters, by example. So there's already a framework available on which you might build. Have you taken those developments into account?
Thank you for the question. Exactly what I was expecting first. You're saying there's Google Drive, for example, for co-editing. There is LIOS, for example, ordered by the European Commission, if I remember correctly. There are solutions or software pieces there today, but they all have different parts where they do not fit to every country's need or every situation. For example, LIOS. LIOS gives you right now gives you a very strict approach on directives or acts, European directives or acts. This is the structure they follow. Other applications try to structure very strictly the structure of the document, the structure of the act. So they do provide the editing functionality, but what they are lacking, for example, if I take LIOS and I downloaded it, I opened it in my computer, what I found out is that the editing or understanding what the amendments were was still kind of like Word, like Microsoft Word, which is track changes. If you have 10 track changes to one paragraph, how does it feel like? Like a mess. So that is what we're trying to solve, to improving the user experience, improving the usability and approach to the interface. And also to put it available on the web, not just as a local installation or a local deployment, which can also be done, but in order to make it publicly available to the civil society. This is an important aspect as well.
Do we have more questions? The team also come to the stage already. No further questions? I guess everybody are convinced. The team come to the stage.
Come on, guys.
Quickly. The whole team who has been building the Draft Hub. Give them a big applause. Give them some goodie bags that they definitely deserve. The goodie bags, by the way, have some nice craft from Estonian artists for everybody. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and more coming up as well. And now the photo for archive that you started at the eJustice hackathon. Give them a big hand. Whoa!
Thank you.
Good. So the next team will be Eurovisor. Please come to the stage. The microphone is waiting for you. The microphone is here, and the clicker is over there if you were told. Hey. You decide.
I will outsource my clicking. All right. Hello, my name is Ivo, and I'm from Team Eurovisor. So we are four university students and programmers, software people who came up with an idea. So we found that a lot of visitors have a very simple problem. When they go to a foreign country, they don't know the basic rules and regulations of very basic things that they want to do. For example, they want to fly their drone, or they want to go camping, or want to go fishing, and maybe the rules are different from the country that they come from. So, for example, what if you're a Swedish guy coming to Estonia? What would be the first thing that you want to do? You want to get your information quickly, easily, and in a digested form. So you would probably use Google, right? You would type into Google, I want to fly a drone in Estonia, and you would click one or two suggestions that come up. So what we would like to do is to improve those pages that you would already find on Google or any other way. So let's have an example. If you search Estonia, you would find this web page, Visit Estonia. And for this type of legal rules, regulations, you would find this long page of text that's not really captivating, it's not filtered, it doesn't necessarily bring out the important rules, regulations that might be important for you. And this is not a critique of Estonia, we are thinking all EU countries. So our solution for this web page would be to bring out those specific regulations, and by knowing that you are coming from Sweden, by reading it from your IP or giving you a small choice, we know that you are coming from Sweden and some regulations and rules are different in Estonia. For example, here, if you want to go camping and you go out of the public grounds onto a private property, you need to have a permission beforehand. In Sweden, the rules are a bit different. So, what our solution is, we don't want to generate a new platform for which we need awareness, we need basically to be the top-ranked site on Google. We just want to provide public information and make it very easy to use it. So, a regular person with a website could click a button and get a snippet of code that they could copy-paste on their web page source code. So, and for those users who are a bit more advanced, who have a developer, we offer a free API that you can use the data freely and visualize it any way you want. So, let's go on. And our target would then be any tourism websites like this Estonia's website that I showed, any accommodation providers, any booking rental platforms, and also airports, docks, and bus stations which have screens and which give out flyers sometimes. And as an extension, in the future, right now we were thinking country-level information. We could provide city-specific information, and in the future we also don't have to limit ourselves with tourists. We could provide special information for entrepreneurs, how to do business in different EU countries. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's continue with questions. Are there questions from the audience? Raise your hand and the girls with microphones will come to you. Then I do have a question. So you say that you could give the codes. Let's say Visit Estonia comes to you. When they would be able to get the information from you?
Information they would get right now. For A bigger website, they probably don't want to use our code. They probably want to style it a bit. They want to have it more flexible. But for a small website, for example, a tourist farm who probably doesn't have any developers, they would use this code generation.
When would you have that ready, was my question.
Okay. We have thought out the technical stuff. It's basically very easy from the technical perspective. Only thing is gathering data. Lots of data we can find freely online. Some would appreciate if we can get buy-in from countries in EU, and the tourist boards of each country would help us keep the data up to date. But the initial version we could do ourselves by using search engines and going through the data. And our plan was to implement this in Estonia and be a good example, and then we could roll out it into different countries.
So you will launch it like 1st of November?
If we find time, we are working people.
Let's see that. Let's have the whole team on the stage. Come on, the whole team, come to the stage quickly. As they said, mostly students who are here to fix a problem that they care about. Some goodie bags for them. And let's wait for the goodie bags and then take the photo. Quickly, give the goodie bags. Yeah. And then they also get the diploma saying that this was launched at Idea Garage eJustice. Give them another big hand. So we have a final 4th team who is ready to come to the stage. Awesome. The microphone is here on the table. Give them a big hand for the final team.
Hi, I am from legal, and we are revolutionizing the way how legal experts work. My name is Mari, and just recently I graduated. I did all of my legal studies in the Netherlands, so I studied abroad, I studied international and European law, and one can only imagine how many hours of my life I have spent in the library trying to figure out how things work in different countries. What are the laws, how everything works. Now I came back home, I started working, and the problem did not disappear. Exactly the opposite. All the working legal experts, the practicing ones, tackle the same issue. There is so much information. You have to do legal research, but how are you doing it? It's basically like you are diving into an ocean. You don't know where to search. You don't know what way you have to start swimming, and you don't know where to stop. So you don't know when you have gathered all the necessary information, or maybe the next thing is exactly the thing you needed. So there is enormous time spent on that. And also imagine if lawyers, legal experts are doing research, it takes so much time. That's why it's so expensive. So if we could decrease that time, then also legal aid would be so much more accessible for all of us. It would be so much cheaper. So what we at Legal are doing, we are building a pan-European search engine where you can search country-specific information. So also it will help you with regards to the cross-border cases. Right now, if I would have to start solving or gathering information about Spanish or Finnish law, oh my God, it would be so extremely time-consuming. But with legally, it will be easier. Our search engine would be semantical, and it would entail everything relevant, just the relevant information. Not like Google, it doesn't have so many answers coming up, just the most relevant ones. You can see the examples on the board. It would look something like that. You can choose the country, you can insert your search word, and you can choose the filters. So there are databases that gather information, but they only gather information from one specific area. So for example, one database gathers case law of the European Court of Justice. So imagine if you do the research, you have to use like 20 databases, plus there is so much more information that is not on the database. But our legal gathers it all. So the target group will be all the lawyers and also other legal experts. In Europe, we have a little over 1 million lawyers plus than all the other legal experts. So imagine it's millions of people who would get so much use for it. Our revenue model, we are thinking about selling it to organizations who would then buy a package for which they would pay a monthly fee. Legal, we revolutionize the work of legal experts. Thank you.
Thank you. So let's see if we have questions for legal so they can search for the answers. Yes, question? You know, there are usually people who like to ask questions, and I understand you're one of them.
Yeah, otherwise you're going to ask them. I don't prevent you to. Did you take into account existing solutions like the NLEX portal, which searches in the legislative databases of all member states of the EU, or the ECLI search engine on the e-Justice portal, which already covers more than 6 million decisions from 3 European courts and about 10 member states?
Yes, there are databases like that, but all of the databases just focus still on some specific areas of information. So they don't have everything gathered all together. For example, we also have theses, master theses, commentaries of laws, so much more information, also the background information, commentaries, explanations. And also you can look up older versions of laws, which sometimes is useful. So there are so much more opportunities, actually. And the existing databases don't really cover that well the need.
The commentaries are mostly edited by commercial publishers. So they are subscription-based. How are you going to solve that?
At first, the work will be hard, and we would have to give out a lot of money. So we would pay, we would buy access to these databases and commentaries.
Did you get answers to all the questions? Do you have a final question from somebody? The whole team also come to the stage, quickly. Show yourself. Who are the ones behind legal? Who wants to revolutionize the search engines for everybody working in the legal sector? Come and stand somewhere here on the stairs. Then the photographer can take much better photo of you without the screen in front of you. Yes, and the goodie bags with nice stuff from Estonian artists and the diploma that you are launched at eIDAS eJustice. Let's give them, wait for it. Yes, one more person. Everybody have it? Now, Viljana, you can, yeah. Now let's give them a big hand for the photo so they have smiley faces on it. Remember, Kathleen told you that favorite of the audience is your choice. And you have a couple of more minutes to choose your favorite of the audience, because we have several different prizes to give for the teams who have spent their time on figuring out the different solutions. What I would also definitely suggest all of you, as you will all go to the lunch together and you have definitely further ideas and comments and, for example, information, what has been done in other countries or in EU. Approach the teams, give them some additional advice about what's already out there so they can choose the best solutions. As you can still vote, I understand that, yeah, there's one team who is ahead, so everybody else start voting if you want somebody else to win. But before that, I have a couple of other prizes to give out. First of all, I would like to start with a special prize that we have from Erasmus Young Entrepreneurs, which means that it's a motivational prize for young people who want to make a difference and who want to disrupt the word we like a lot, by the way, a sector and the way of the things are done in an old way. And the special prize from Erasmus for Young Entrepreneurs will go to one of the teams who will help people in family business, Peter the Lobot. The whole team, come to the stage, please. Yes, quickly, 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 quickly. Awesome. You have to take the diploma from me and smile again to the camera and show the diploma to the camera. So these young people will make a difference in family law and help the people in the future. Give them a big hand. Now, there will be a team who will get 2 special prizes. One of them will be top 100 to an Estonian business competition called Ajujaht, which basically means brain hunt. It's a business competition that starts during autumn and goes through the year until spring, where every different kind of business ideas can apply. And often the technical ideas disrupting different sectors are among the first ones over there. The team who will get directly to top 100 will basically get access to the program without further trying to apply and doing much more. This team will also get a special cybersecurity prize by Startup Estonia. And by the way, the trick why they get it is that because this team will definitely have the biggest challenge with cybersecurity. And the team who will get directly to Ajujaht Top 100 and Cybersecurity Prize is, wait for it, Draft Hub. Give them a big hand, the whole team to the stage. You get the diplomas from Grete. 2 diplomas at once, immediately. That is crazy, right? Come to the stage. Then smile to the cameraman. Pressure, pressure. Yeah. This is team getting 2 special prizes. Give them a big hand. Draft Hub. I guess you can stay here, by the way. As the next prize is about favorite of the audience. And now I can tell you, now the voting is locked. So what you see on the screens up there is that Draft Us was the one that you cared about and you voted to be the favorite of the audience. Give them a big hand. More goodies from Estonia Crafts. Can you show me what's there? New vintage jewelry for your hands. Great, thank you. Now maybe you can leave. Let's see if you can go. Who will be back? The jury consisted of 5 people who were listening to the teams in the hackathon room and already asked them lots of very critical questions that the teams needed to answer. Many more, I would say, than you asked over here. And the jury made their own decision who is going to be the winner of this eIDAS hackathon this time. For that, I would like to call Mehi Sifart from Minister of Justice to the stage, who was head of the jury and who will announce who is the winner and why this team was chosen to be the winner among the 4 teams who worked very hard during this yesterday and today.
Yeah. I must say it was very exciting to see how much different ideas were generated based on this very tough topic like e-justice. And the winner is actually a solution what brings laws closer to citizens. So You may be surprised, but the winner is Eurovisor.
I really like it.
So, who will continue?
Sa võid ka äratada. Well, now we have to close the conference, so a bit sad, a bit good in the sense that probably we have so many idea gatherings and possible solutions proposed that I believe maybe the limit of the brain for the time being has been reached. So we need to brain digest all the solutions and ideas that we have been discussing here. Hence, I will not make another conclusion on the content. We have been doing that all through the 2 days. I simply have, before I duly say thank you once again, some technical notes to be made. Lunch, we are hungry, probably. It is where it was yesterday, so today it will be together with the hackathon team members, as already asked by Elisa. Please mingle during the lunch. For those who need time to work or have time before their flights, we also have a working space up on the 4th floor. The signs will lead you. Once again, the videos and the photos will be uploaded to the conference website somewhere next week. And you can stay in this building until 5 in the afternoon or 5 p.m. this evening. Thank you and hope to see you on another hackathon or /eJustice conference. Thank you for being here. Thank you very much.